For the planning and zoning session on January the 8th. Thank you for everyone being here. For the record, never do this because we're usually on closer terms there. So I'm going to introduce our commissioners that are all here tonight. Starting to my left down there, Mr. Durbin, Mr. Cooper, Ms. Tibbetts, Mr. Peterman, Mr. Cornell, myself, Mr. Martin, Mr. Costello, Ms. Jepson, Mr. Frederick, and Mr. Cullen. We're here tonight. I appreciate them being here this evening. If you don't know, I'd like to take just a minute to introduce myself, just so everyone knows. I've been part of the planning zone for quite a few years now. Been very proud of being a part of this distinguished board. I was a government and psychology teacher here at high school for 26 years, and this is a government teacher's thrill. This is awesome to see this many community members at one of our meetings. Something I've been talking about for a long time to our students, and I'm so thankful that you are here tonight. So this is a dream for me to see such outpouring of concern for our community, because I think we're all at the end of the road knows what's best for our community. Tonight, the project will be introduced by the P&Z Commissioner Chair, and so then the city staff will present the agenda item, including a brief overview relevant details. The applicant will then present the project to us as a whole. Members of the public will have 1 minute to speak tonight, and that's during open comments. We'll have 5 minutes just to review our rules. You have 5 minutes to speak. There'll be a timer on the board, and at the 5-minute mark, I will hit the gavel, and you'll have 30 seconds to finish up what you're speaking, and stop, please. Time and not go between people. Once you take the floor, you have your 5 minutes. You don't have to take the full 5 minutes. Speaker cards will be called in the order that they received. After all submitted speaker cards are called, the chair, which is myself, will invite additional speakers. If anyone still wants to speak, you can have that right as well. All testimony, comments, and questions must be directed to the public, as a whole, so everyone, you're not picking anyone out in particular. Questions will not be answered during the public hearing. That's something that a lot of you think that we should do, and we're being rude, and we don't do that, but that's the rules of the quorum. We will not answer questions during the public comments. They will be noted and addressed at the appropriate time, if applicable. Upon completion of public comments, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond to the issues or concerns raised by the questions from the community. Speakers in attendance shall not interrupt others while they're speaking. That's very important tonight, that we have some respect and some decorum. No hemming, no cheering, we're not like that. And again, I appreciate everyone being here tonight, and I ask politely that we're all cordial and respectful to each other. All participants are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Interruptions, outbursts, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. And thank you again for everyone here tonight. With that being said, we're going to open up our only public hearing of the evening, and that is our one-time data center conditional use permit C-103. Thank you. Ms. Root? Is there anyone here tonight? This is not public comment time. This is for the public comment time, right? Thank you. You want to start first? Yes. All right. Mr. Burks, you go on first, sir. Thank you.
Okay. As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I want to ask the publication notice published in the Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference. The city's comprehensive plan and the city ordinances shall be made part of the record by reference. The planning and zoning officer report shall be made part of the record by reference. This is the Warren Data Center, official use 103, site plan SP 185. The applicant is Kimberly Mall. Location 337.17 acres north of the North Service Road and west of Highway W. The zoning is N1 light industrial. The overview is Kimberly Mall submitted an application for a site plan and conditional use permit on October 31st, 2025 for development of a large scale data center campus on approximately 337 acres, 337.17 acres.
Mr. Burks, I hate to interrupt you. I'm gonna ask you to do something a little, can you come to the podium? I think that microphone's gonna work better at this time than that one. Right. I got you. So I think if you come up and I tested that one out. I'm kind of a microphone hound. I'm going here, so I'm not John. Thanks. That was off. Is that better?
All right, the proposed, will we start all over? Okay. As part of the preliminary matter for the public hearing. Part of the record by reference. The city. Part of the record by reference. This is the Warrington Data Center conditional use CUP 103 and site plan 185. The applicant is Kimley Horn. Location is 337.17 acres north of the North Service Road and west of Highway W. Zoning is M1 light industrial. Project overview, Kimley Horn submitted an application for a site plan and conditional use permit on October 31st, 2025 for the development of a large-scale data center campus on approximately 337.17 acres. The purpose of this development includes 2 data center buildings totaling 1,610,000 square feet. It's 805,000 square feet each. 140,000 square foot administration building located south of Building 1. And the total building area is approximately 1,650,000 square feet. Supporting infrastructure includes a 621,250 square foot switch yard and a 603,200 square foot electrical substation located in the northern portion of the site. The conditional use permit, the data center requires a conditional use permit within the M1 light industrial district. A conditional use permit is required with or without storage of hazardous material. The stormwater management, preliminary stormwater review indicates that runoff will be managed through 2 detention facilities located in the northeast and the northwest portion of the site. Final stormwater design details will be provided with the construction and improvement plans and will demonstrate compliance with all required design storm events. An 8-foot security fence is proposed around the perimeter of the site to provide controlled access and define the property boundaries. Water service will be provided by Montgomery City Water District. Sanitary sewer, the city sewer system has a rated capacity of 3.2 million gallons per day, with an average daily flow of approximately 1.59 million gallons per day in 2025. This leaves approximately 1.61 million gallons per day available capacity. The proposed development is expected to generate approximately 6,500 gallons per day, and that's 0.005 million gallons a day, representing a minimal impact on the system. Based on the project and fluid load, the project does not trigger the city's pretreatment ordinance, and should further operation exceed the allowable discharge limit, pretreatment would be required. In parking, the site plan provides parking that meets or exceeds minimum code requirements, ensuring adequate capacity for employees and visitors. Lighting, all exterior lighting will be dark sky compliant, designed to minimize light spill and glare by directing illumination downward and reducing sky glow. Landscaping, the landscaping plan has been submitted. It includes the required number of trees and foundation planting. The plan meets or exceeds the applicable code requirements. Access, the preliminary ingress and egress will be located along the southern border of the property on the North Service Road. A secondary access point is also proposed along the same frontage east of the primary entrance. Both access points have been reviewed and approved by MoDOT. The staff has reviewed the proposed conditional use of site plan and finds the project consistent with chapter 405 of the Warrenton Municipal Code. Development aligns with and supports the goal of the city comprehensive plan. All required submittals and public notice requirements have been satisfied in accordance with state and local regulations. That's all I have on this. The applicant is here to give a presentation.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Pardon me, members of the public. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. My name is Matt Field. I'm the Chief Real Estate Officer for Crusoe, the data center owner and developer. I'm going to try to manage the technology myself, which is not my strong suit, so stick with me. Tonight, my role is to introduce you to our company, walk you through our plan for the data center. I know there's about some aspects of the project. I really want to address those fundamentally up front, make sure that we can answer any questions that there may be. And I know that information flies around the internet, which is housed in our data centers, and can tend to lead to miscommunication sometimes. So we really here to answer questions and try to make a very clear presentation about what is happening in the project. I'm going to walk you through the agenda. Let's see if this works. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm going to introduce the company. Walk you through what a data center is, because I think people may not exactly know what a data center really is. Talk about water and power, which are obviously two of the key topics. Give you an overview of the project, our approach to the construction period, and then talk about our investment in the community and engagement with the community. The next slide, please. So Crusoe is a vertically integrated company. And what that means is we work at every level of the data center building. So that goes from, we have a manufacturing business. We manufacture medium voltage switchgear ourselves. We have about a 500-person workforce across Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Colorado, where we're manufacturing facilities. We're growing that business rapidly. All our jobs are US based. We're trying to keep our supply chain here in the US. We build the data centers themselves, and we actually operate data centers. We have our own cloud business. That's not proposed for this location, but it gives us a unique perspective. I think there's a lot of people who try to build these buildings and they don't actually operate the businesses that are in the buildings. So having a unique understanding of how the building's got to function that you're building. And I think that does distinguish us a bit from our competition. The infrastructure we're building here is really critical to how the economy operates. We all live on our phones and other devices these days, and they depend on these things. And the evolution of artificial intelligence in particular is putting more and more strain on that digital infrastructure that we all rely on as it tries to get integrated into all aspects of our life. Particularly, we're seeing it across healthcare, we're seeing it across tech, we're seeing it across national security, and it's driving both local and national economic growth. I also want to say, by building it here, we're trying to preserve digital security, which is a major concern. I think of anybody who's close to the business, we're all worried about identity theft and keeping data secure. Having that data storage in the US and in secure systems is critical. The next slide, please. So what is a data center? A data center is essentially a very large computer, if you really want to think about it. When you think about your computer at home, it's got chips inside of it that are running the operations, whatever software you're running. You have to keep it cool. It has a fan. You'll hear it runs, it suddenly kicks the fan on. In some cases, you'll have an uninterruptible power supply, like a generator as backup, or if it has to shut itself down, it doesn't just shut off, and you lose all your data. And in the case of these buildings, there's extremely sophisticated fire life safety systems and security systems to keep the building secure. The cooling is become more and more demanding as the chips have become able to do more and more complex computation. And that's really driven innovation in the business and in the way we cool the data centers. And I think at the core of what a lot of people are concerned about, or one of the concerns, is water. And if you can flip to the next slide, traditional evaporative cooling, which you'll see here in the middle, about 1 billion gallons of water annually to cool one of the buildings we're building here. A typical American household consumes about 140,000 gallons annually. That's a EPA stat. You can find a variety of stats if you go on the internet, but that's about plus or minus where most of them fall. Our buildings, once they're operational, will use 120,000 gallons of water annually for both buildings, so less than a single house. And the reason that's possible is we used to cool the air with this evaporative cooling and try to put the cold air across the chips that were running hot. The chips run too hot now. It's not possible. So we're chilling water, and we're actually bringing water into the racks and bringing cold water past the chips and cooling the chips in place. And that same water gets hot as it goes past the chips, gets sent back out and chilled again, and it's recycled round and round. There is almost no evaporation, and that's why the water use is so low. So the state-of-the-art data centers are very different than a traditional data center. Traditional data centers absolutely used huge amounts of water. That is not the case with what we're doing here. Could I have the next slide, please? In terms of our water use, we're not putting in any wells. We're not going to be drawing down the water table. The water is going to be served by the Montgomery County Water District. We're using, I think the intro addressed this, but we're using about 6,200 gallons of water a day. That's plus maintenance, plus domestic service. We have an administrative building here. There'll be people in it that will use domestic water supply. This is equivalent to about 16 single-family homes. The site we're looking at here is about a 400-acre site. If you thought about it as a residential site and it had 1-acre lots on it, that would be 400 homes. So on a relative basis to the site, we think the water consumption is actually relatively low. Can I have the next slide, please? We also often hear in our business is driving up residential utility rates. The state of Missouri Service Commission recently enacted a large customer rate structure, and it's designed specifically to protect against any residential rate paying increases by taking large load customers, which is what we would be considered under that tariff, and making us pay a special rate. And we have to pay for the cost of all generation and transmission. None of it is passed through to the ratepayers. So this is a very recent improvement that came through the Service Commission, and we are falling under that new regulation. Could I have the next slide? Okay, now to the project. There's a 580-acre site where we are looking at, and what's before you today for the conditional use permit is on 337 acres in the city. We also have 243 acres adjacent that are in the county. We are not developing on. They're just buffered to the site. Okay. We are covering 19% of the site of the 337 acres. The code would allow us to cover 45% of the site area. So we're developing to about half the density that would be allowed under the code on the site. The buildings, as was stated earlier, are about 800,000 square feet each. In the front, if the laser will work, down here, that's the administrative building at the front. That's a 40,000 square foot building. There are the 2 protection ponds to control stormwater up here. There is a project substation behind the buildings, and then the utility dam above its substation back here. We have a 549 parking space. Surface parking area. That's required parking. We're not exceeding code. In fact, we could probably live with less. We have somewhere between 2,000 and 2,400 construction jobs during the course of the project, and about 100 jobs. We're building a number of these facilities around the country and have been working with local construction across the country to find the hire and start locally. And if we need additional labor, we bring labor from surrounding states. In general, we find that we're going to absorb probably as much labor as we can get in the surrounding area very easily, and we may have to bring in outside labor. But hopefully at this scale, we won't have to do that, but we'll manage however that plan works. Could I have the next slide, please? Oh, I lost an image. Okay, I'm going to improvise. If you go, actually, could you go back? Can you go to site plan? Okay, I'm going to try this as a laser. Let's see here. We have 100-foot buffer of existing trees, a minimum of 100 feet running along the side of the property. Obviously, that buffer gets greater as we go around the property. These are all existing trees that will be retained. The landscape plan for the new trees and native plantings, which is here in front. If you flip to the next slide, this is a view of the eastern property line with the trees, so you can see the existing trees. The requirement here would be 10 feet. We're setting, but we've got 100 feet of screening by leaving the 100 feet of trees. And then we have the large undeveloped areas. If you flip back again for me, I apologize for jumping back and forth. This property and this property are undeveloped adjacent to the property, and this is undeveloped as well. So we're exceeding the landscaping setback by tenfold, and we're doing it with these existing trees. Under the code, we're allowed actually to take trees down and plant new ones. We're not doing that. If we can flip slides forward, that would be, oh, there, look at that. That would have been useful. And you can see species, and you get some sense of looking at this tree stand here relative to the edge of the property. Can you flip to the next slide for me, please? Here's another perspective of this. So this is looking through represents a 6-foot tall person looking from that 100-foot depth, their sight line relative to the building and how far back the buildings are set. And I'll talk about the building setbacks in just a moment, but you get the sense of whether it's summer or winter, the 100-foot buffer is a pretty significant screen that's being provided. We're really trying to be sensitive. We get that this is a big project, and we do have residential neighbors, and we're not trying to get to the minimum requirements. There are mature trees here that we think are important to save. If you could flip to the next slide. Setbacks and the substation switchyard setback requirements are each 50 feet. In the case of the switchyard, we're setting back 150 feet at the minimum. It's obviously greater to the north. So that's about 3 times the required setback. In the case of the substation, we're 400 feet from the property line, about 8 times the setback requirement. And in the case of the building setbacks, our closest property line is here, and that's at 500 feet, or about 10 times the required setback. So we're somewhere between 500 and 1,500 feet. The 1,500 feet counts all the way across this property. It doesn't obviously just count to this property line, but counts all the way across the property. We are, again, trying to not put as much as we possibly can on the site and trying to set ourselves back so that we can fit the project in and provide as much screening and distance as we can from our neighbors. The next slide, please. Backup generators. So generators are a project. They are for emergencies. We have 6 generators per building, which is about 4% of the building's total power. We are not looking to back up operations here. We're looking to back up systems so that if we're in the middle of winter, we don't freeze this recirculating water. And same thing, we try to keep the water flowing, because if it stands still, you can get contamination. But that is all that is running. We are not trying, in the event of a utility outage, we are not trying to run the building with backup power. All of this falls under a noise ordinance that the city has. that requires no more than 60 decibels at the property line, which is equivalent to essentially a dishwasher running. 60 decibels is pretty low. We put all the generators inside of sound enclosures, and they have essentially an acoustic panel wall that runs all the way around the generator enclosure. In all cases, we have to meet that noise ordinance, and the way to do that is to ensure we're doing that is inside these enclosures. We are required to test them both by the city of Warrenton and by the manufacturers in order to keep our warranty. That's a 1 hour monthly test. It's run during business hours on weekdays only under the city ordinance. We have 1 2 hour test that we have to run per year, same time of day. We're also cognizant of the risk of fuel storage leak prevention. We don't want to contaminate groundwater. The fuel tanks are all double wall construction. They all have leak detection systems built into them and that are monitored at the administrative building. So there's full-time monitoring of all of the fuel storage. Could I have the next slide, please? Here you can see the placement of the generators into these purple circles. The generator setbacks are required to be 100 feet from the property line. You can see we vastly exceed these. And in the case of these ones in the middle, any noise is going to be in between these buildings. So the distance from the property lines is significant. We're really not worried about exceeding these based on where they're placed. Could I have the next slide? So in summary, all of the requirements for the conditional use that exceed all of the setback requirements by substantial margins. We're really trying best we can to build a project that is not trying to max out the site, not trying to max out backup, not trying to max out anything on the site. Recognize it's still a big project, and so we're really trying to find that balance of being respectful of our neighbors and getting the project to fit onto the site. The next slide. In terms of construction approach, if the project goes through, start construction sometime in the second quarter of this year, we will have a dedicated community liaison for communication with neighbors and regulators so that we can always be reached. You don't have to think you're calling the contractor who points fingers at the owner, who points fingers at somebody else. We will have a liaison that is direct contact. In terms of traffic management, we do have direct access off 70, which we think will really help minimize traffic impact. There is no construction access through any residential streets. The proximity to the freeway is candidly super helpful here. We will have dust control and adherence with the Department of Natural Resources, and candidly keeping dust down is not only something that's a regulatory impact, it's super important for our operations and safety on the site. We also have a lot of sensitive electronic components which are very dust sensitive, so we're going to be highly sensitive to this. Those a city noise ordinance again for construction noise and work, which we're obviously going to adhere to. There will be perimeter security fencing, which the planning department addressed. There will be an 8-foot fence around the property. It'll remain secure. We do realize we have neighbors, and again, securing the property relative to kids, all sorts of things. The security goes both ways, and our contractor, which we have used on multiple projects around the country, we've had personal relationships with both at Crusoe and before. It is really extraordinary, and their safety record is incredible. We really worker safety is about the most important thing you have at the end of the day. If you build a project and you obviously just can't have people getting hurt. And we're actually trained in this, in the course of this project, people get trained in being able to build these these new projects because these are the next generation of infrastructure our country's building. This project will exceed all OSHA standards. There's a site-specific safety plan. We'll have a full-time on-site medic on the property. The next slide, please. I thought it might be useful to compare the data center to a light industrial use that would also be allowed under the current zoning without a CUP. So the data center will have 70% less operational traffic than light industrial, something like a warehouse. You know, you can have full-time heavy truck traffic coming to and from the site. That does not happen with a data center. There are actually there's a lot more regular traffic from employees and visitors to a light industrial use than there is a data center use. The light industrial warehouse type is going to use 45% site coverage. That's kind of just the metric they use, and the balance they're going to use for, there's a lot of parking. We're covering about half of that. I should also point out that 19% we're measuring differently than the code would tell you to measure. The code would not have us measure the substation and switchyard. Okay. The code would say the buildings are what count. We're counting the switchyard. And so it's true site coverage, even if the code doesn't count it that way. We're actually bumping the number up to count for anything that we're improving on the site. Maybe the bigger things are the economic impact from the project. There'll be an $80 billion annual tax revenue increase from the property taxes, which is almost 20 times greater than a light industrial project of the same scale. And we use probably 40% of the water that light industrial project would use. So you've got a much less intensive use. And I don't know if I marked that, and significantly greater fiscal benefits coming from similar development intensity. So we think, you know, data centers obviously are in the news all the time, and I know there's a lot of discussion around what do they do, what's the impact on the community, et cetera. And I hope that by walking through a lot of these things, we're able to communicate clearly what some of those impacts are and then frame them around other land uses that would be on the site. Could I have the next slide? I'm going to actually, Sarah, do you want to come up? This is my colleague, Sarah Axelrod, and she'll present the investment we're making into the community. Thank you, commissioners.
Commissioners, thank you so much for the time this evening. I just wanted to go through a couple quick slides talking about what this actually means in the community, right? This project is a big one, and what does this now mean for the city of Warrenton? These are extremely conservative, very preliminary, hypothetical tax revenue numbers that came from the EDC when they, started to run the preliminary modeling on this project. And, as you can see, an estimated real property tax bill of about 70 million. And how that is distributed across the city of Warrenton, you're looking at things like an 84% increase in school district annual revenue, a 350% increase in Warrenton Fire Protection annual revenue, additional money for the regional library. This, again, the city of Warrenton number. This is impactful, right? This is real money. These dollars can do a tremendous amount of good. So when we talk about when I have this project here, when I think about the impact, this is what that looks like. If we go to the next slide. Matt talked a lot about the investments and investing in Warrenton and the investments of this project, right? The annual budget, thousands of construction opportunities, more than 100 permanent high-skilled careers that will be established in the community. These are the jobs that are everything from the janitor who works in the data center every day to the data center operator to the software engineers. And then think about also all of the ancillary jobs that come from these full-time jobs being created. I had one of our other projects a couple of weeks ago. I had a fantastic conversation with the pest control company locally, who now is taking care of pest control around the data center and landscapers, right? The ripple effects as we relate to jobs are definitely impactful. You know, thinking of millions of dollars in tax revenue over the next hundreds of millions, of tax revenue over the next decade. And, you know, also in this jobs, and I know Matt made the commitment to hiring locally, this is something Crusoe really prides ourselves on. We would love to hire, think about it as concentric circles, right? We're going to hire locally as much as we possibly can first, you know, expand to the great area, think about Missouri, and then if there's additional need, we'll go from there. And this, you know, also includes a lot of our workforce development that we've done. And this is, you know, I think a real passion area, quite frankly, for Crusoe, and this, the industrialization of what it takes to build these projects and build this infrastructure. We're really looking forward to. We've had, you know, preliminary conversations of what this workforce development, you know, could look like here with the school district, and really excited to pursue those conversations. This last piece, you know, we've talked about what this project will bring. And I think just to end on a little bit about Crusoe and how we think about working with communities, these projects, I like to say, are sort of the definition of a public-private partnership, right? And we feel very strongly that in addition to the economic value created by the project itself, we want to be good community partners. We're committed to supporting and becoming an integral part of the communities in which we operate, extending our impact, you know, far beyond day-to-day business activities. And so when we think about Crusoe's, you know, just sort of broad ethos across the board, our first pillar is around furthering innovation. What this has looked like around other projects is supporting STEM education in K through 12 schools. Community stewardship, an example of this, we do a lot of river cleanups and planting trees and, you know, supporting green space and parks. And then finally, I actually love this like catch-all bucket at the end, which is just around being a good neighbor. And it's because every community is unique, right? There are things that people care about here that are different than the county next door. And yeah, I will say I was here probably right before the holidays, so about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and spent some time at Agape and hearing the work that they had done, you know, especially coming out of Thanksgiving and the need there. And it was just unbelievably impressed with the work that they are doing around food insecurity. And, you know, we are incredibly excited to support them. And I think that is our last content slide. The next one saying thank you. I think I will end on, you know, first of all, thank you for the time. You know, we're of course excited to talk and answer as many questions as you could throw at us. What I'll say is, you know, this is bigger than Crusoe, right? This is bigger than one project that is 2 buildings. This is mission critical infrastructure, right? We are hearing about this infrastructure every day, and what does it actually do, right? This infrastructure is quickly becoming foundational to economic growth, innovation, national security. And this project in Warrenton is a meaningful step towards ensuring that the infrastructure powering the future of the digital economy is built not only in America, but built here in Warrenton, creating American jobs, creating jobs in Warrenton, and furthering prosperity here. We're incredibly grateful for the thoughtful conversations we've had with the community over the last, you know, several months, or couple of months, I should say, and recognize that the opportunity to build this infrastructure here in Warrenton in a way that, you know, directly benefits the people and families in this room. In closing, this project represents more than a data center, right? It represents economic opportunity, national security, and a future where Warrenton plays a central role in powering the technologies that will define the next generation. We appreciate your consideration and respectfully ask for your support. Thank you so much.
Ms. Axelrod and Mr. Field, thank you very much for your presentation. Very informative. With that, we'll ask anyone else if they would comment during the public hearing at this time. Anyone?
You have the cards, right?
That's the public comments.
Okay.
No, this is now, well, if correct, found out. That's you, Mr. Cornell. So I haven't been over here, so we'll let's go on the public hearing. First speaker was Samantha Jordan, and if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. Is Samantha here tonight? He's here. Let me know. How about Mr. Scott Ramshaw? Thank you, sir. First of all, step to the podium, state your name for the record, and if you can't make it down to the podium, we have a table in the back with a microphone as well. You'll just go there and turn the microphone on and state your name. Thank you.
My name's Scott Ramshaw. I'm with the Plumbers and Pipefitters out of St. Louis. We cover 67 counties in the state of Missouri, up to Iowa, down to Arkansas, out to Cooper County, about a little bit over half the state, right in that area. I would too like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Just from industry as a whole, we build residential homes and we build and maintain the nuclear powerhouses. So the data centers fall in between. So, but just to give you an idea, with the industry as a whole that we cover, I'm not talking about commercial, light commercial, residential. We also follow that, but just right now from some of the different groups where we follow data from, you're looking at about $527 billion projects that we're watching in the state right now. 2,000 or 2,300 could be low being built, 1,100 medium, and then 7,500 are high of being built. And just so I ran a little report on what's happening in Warren County right now, just of different things we're watching. And it's not just my trade, it's all the trades, but you're looking at, from the report we ran, there were 7 projects, $1.85 billion, 3 low and 4 high that they'll finish. So just to give you an idea, that's not counting the data center. That information's not in here. We also work with the Missouri DED with Michelle Hadaway and her team. We work with the Missouri Partnership with Sabash Ailes. We're also involved with the Hawthorne Foundation as a group because we want to bring investment from outside the United States into Missouri to put people to work in Missouri and build projects. We also work with the Warren County, Montgomery County Economic Development Group. And we've also been lately working, because we've been watching with the expansion of Highway 70 going over to Kansas City. Just to give you an idea, the General Assembly passed like $2.84 billion to move that highway across the state. That's just from their revenue. But we've been reaching out to St. Charles Community College, Dr. Barbara Cavalier, Shelley Mockins, and some of the other labor unions have with the community colleges that they have out here. Our goal, working with the users and the developers, is to grow the workforce that we need from the youth going forward for these types of developments that are going to be coming not only to Warrenton, but Montgomery County and other counties as the highways expand. So we're looking forward to that. Our apprenticeship program right now, we have like 4,500 members, some of those retirees, but we have 850 apprentices in a 1 through 5 year program. And there's no cost to that individual getting in, but we need a certain skill set before that individual can get into our program, because we need to know they have skin in the game. We need to give them an opportunity for a job. They need to show up, they need to go to work, and they need to be drug-free. If we want to help give occupation in the trades for the lifetime of their career. So I started when I was 18 out of high school. I've been in 47 years. I'm at the end of my career. I could go, but there's a little bit of excitement with all this data center and different things that are coming. I want to stick around and see some end results and hopefully see some of these kids get in these building trades apprenticeship programs. The St. Louis Building Trades covers the area
of Warren County and Montgomery County. We have some of the best building trades apprenticeship programs in the country. There's no cost to an individual getting into our trade, but they gotta engage, and they gotta show up, and they gotta go to work. And we want to put those individuals to work. Just looking at the high school website, you know, it gives you the high demand for occupations for the 2025 enhancement grant. Out of 150 of those occupations, there's probably 25 occupations that could be affected by the building trade. So we look forward to the discussion with the high school, the community college, and the parents, because you're buying from the parents from the building trades as you bring these kids in at a different level. You know, if you bring them in that level, there's got to be guidance. And I mean, my parents was, you get up and go to work. You know, if you don't go to work, get out of whatever program you're in. We don't have time in today's world because we're trying to meet or exceed the end users or the developers' timeline to get these projects done. So we're all on the same page. Let's put these kids to work. We look forward and hope that you'll, you know, pass this planning and zoning or pass it on. And I appreciate your time. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Next speaker, Justin. Is it Roberts or? Thanks, Justin. Just state your name, sir, please, for the record.
My name's Justin Roberts. I live next to the property being proposed for the data center. Looking at the plans. I think the lighting and issues like that is what we really need to pay attention to. How much light is going to be broadcasted on our farm. I run cattle and goats on our property. And we have many, many animals other than that. I think lighting issues and sound barrier is the biggest issues I see with the project. And that's it, really.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Next, we'll have Ms. Cheryl Roberts Longwoodler. Thought I saw her. There she is. And once again, thank you for everyone filling out the cards. Makes it a lot easier. So.
Good evening, board. I've been before you a couple of times now, so kind of old school here. Kind of like Justin said, the lighting and the barriers that's the only thing that's a big concern to us right now. It seems like they're doing extra on that. And as I've said a jillion times, this is very personal to me. It's right in my front and backyard. And as long as the plans go like they say and better than, just so we maintain our quality of life and our animals' quality of life, that's the important thing. So we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Longwoodler. And thank you very much. As you said, she's been in front of us 2 or 3 times, and we always appreciate her coming in and sharing her. And I would like to say thank you to Mr. Bernthal for being here today from Channel 2. We appreciate you for covering us today. And I remember when Channel 4 was here, Ms. Longwoodler did a interview on there, and that was very fantastic. And thank you for sharing your side of the story as well. Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Mr. Cody Turner.
Thank you very much. My name is Cody Turner. I live here in Ward 1. I'm here tonight, not just as a resident, but I'm here not to stop the growth of what's happening here in Warrenton. But I really want to ask the clear questions about what transparency, infrastructure, and long-term impacts this can actually happen with this data center. My first concern is the power usage and water usage, specifically how water will be used and discharged. At this point, the community does not believe that there is enough information to confidently understand the impacts of this project. Even small changes in water temperature and discharge, pH, small things will make a huge impact to our ecosystem. I would like to understand what safeguards are in place to prevent harm to local ecosystems and laws that are in place, what standards we hold, and monitoring requirements to make sure that we hold these people accountable. Beyond the technical details, I'm asking for transparency in a process, making sure that the residents know who is responsible for what is happening, what studies are being conducted, and how is this project appear to be moving so freaking quickly. Sorry to say freaking. Specifically, I'm asking whether there's a clear public timeline for this project and how and when information will be updated to the citizens around us, and not just be next thing you know, it's there. My goal is not obstruction. It never has been. It's been informed decision making. Transparency will build your trust in this community across the board. And with a project like this, with the amount of money on the board, with the amount of water being taken, with the amount of things happening, we can't just sit down and make sure that it's happening okay. So please take time, do your research, and, get into it. Thank you for your time. My name is Cody Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Our next speaker, Ms. Jess Sutton. Yeah, just table right up there, ma'am. Thank you, Justin.
Okay, oh geez, I'm allowed to begin with. I'm Jess Sutton. I have been to as many meetings as I could when I found out this was being snuck in. I would have left if it wasn't for someone else digging into things. And my biggest concern is what happens when our wells go dry? Who's gonna pay for that? I don't see anything in this proposal talking about what they will do to the county residents they're snuggling up to. What are you gonna do when those wells go dry? If it's not a concern, then why not? Let's handle it. Let's set something up so that people aren't stuck holding the bill for another freaking corporation, and I'm not sorry I said freaking. My other biggest concern is, why were we told at the September 2nd meeting that you all knew nothing about this? And maybe none of you stayed up like this. But your city administrator was already coaching them through this PUP that you hadn't even decided on. Isn't that kind of weird? And then when the CUP came up, it was push to CUP. Well, sure, because since October 8th, Ms. Walters has been going back and forth and telling them what they needed to do to make sure they were approved for a COP, right down to a link to the application and a link to pay for the CUP. Nothing strange about that, right? But you knew nothing. And then we get all the way into, and I didn't bring my notes for that, but it is in the month of October, where a site plan comes into the email of Ms. Walters. Now, I know everybody here, do you remember us being told to have a site plan in October? No. Do you remember them telling us, we don't know anything? What are you talking about?
Yes.
We will only discuss this when a proposal comes to the table. Do you remember that?
Yes.
This zero transparency. And then let's talk about putting people onto the planning and zoning. Spouses of boards of aldermen. And then Mr. Barton didn't want to share his 30 years experience on planning and zoning, and I couldn't figure out how that happens. You know how that happens? They don't put it up for someone else. They automatically, if he wants in there, they automatically put him in. They got rid of a vetting committee the night before they installed 2 new people. I mean, would that make you is going on doing this? But if you look at the city's website, they still claim to have that vetting committee. So they want to appear that everything is above board and that they are transparent. But if you attend meetings, which now I will, despite being a county resident, you have not seen the last of me, not by far, because I've found a lot of other things along the way. So just consider your actual residents and not your timeshare salesman. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, just a reminder that we'd appreciate no personal attacks tonight. I have nothing to be ashamed of being on this board for 30 years. I have been appointed since 1995. I was a civics teacher, government teacher, and I did it to show my students how to get involved in the community. So there we go. Our next comment is by Mr. Steve Etcher. Thank you, Mr. Etcher, for being here.
Well, good evening. My name is Steve Etcher. I am the Economic Development Consultant for the Greater Warren County Economic Development Council. I'm a resident of this county for nearly 4 decades. The EDC offers their strong support for this incredible and ideal project that is being proposed by Caruso. But also, before I even talk about the project specifically, I'd like to take just a few moments of the allocated time to thank you for your service to the community. Many of you served on this board for a long time, and you've served on many other boards in the community to make sure our community's future is bright and prosperous. These can be very thankless jobs. So let me just take a moment again to say thank you for serving your community. The EDC believes this is a suitable and ideal project for Warrenton. The proposed property location is ideal for industrial development. The site is already zoned for industrial uses. The site can easily be supported with public infrastructure, including water and sewer utilities. Electrical infrastructure is nearby and can and will be extended to the site to support any growth activities there. The site is easily accessed from Interstate 70 and will not result in any traffic that impacts other roadways within the community. The site can be developed to minimize impacts to other developments. And the data center industry is one of the least disruptive industrial developments you could wish for in an industrial zone. I believe the project is ideal for this location because, as Caruso has already told you, they will be a wonderful community partner and neighbor. They do take resource conservation as their first approach in all of their developments. They have stated that they will use a closed loop system. They will not drill any wells on that site. So they're going to be very conservative in their water utilization for their purposes. And they have developed a site plan that they presented here tonight that is thoughtful and considerate of the opinions that have been expressed over the past few months in this community, as well as being fully compliant with the requirements of your conditional use permit. As Sarah and Matt also said, this is an incredible opportunity for our community. This project will create significant employment opportunities, both during the construction phase and the operational phase. As they said, there will be thousands of well-paying construction jobs for the various trades, many of which are present here tonight. There will be numerous permanent jobs at this location that can be filled by our residents and, more importantly, by our graduates. These are great paying jobs that will support a high quality of lifestyle for those residents that are employed here. I look forward to local graduates receiving training so they can enter employment at the data center upon their graduation. That is what we all wish for our community. As they've said in the initial estimates, this project will generate enormous private investment into our community. They will bring billions of new dollars into our economy. The construction phase will develop enormous economic activity for all the businesses in our community, whether large or small. And once constructed, as I said, it would produce tens of millions of dollars annually to support the quality of life and the taxing jurisdictions that make that life possible here in our community. I believe this is a generational opportunity that will create a wonderful future, so let's embrace it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ledger. Our next speaker is Abby Herndon. Thank you, Ms. Herndon.
Hi, I'm Abby Herndon. I'm from St. Charles County. So I'm curious to where you're getting all of your information for those slides that was provided by Crusoe. Who have they been talking with? Have they been talking with the Department of Natural Resources, the Missouri Department of Conservation? Where are they getting all this data from? My next question would be, what environmental studies have been done? Have they been done yet? Will they be done? Who's going to be paying for them? When will they be done? Where are all the sources that you're getting this information from? Because we don't have it. How can we check that these numbers are correct when you're not telling us the information that we need to know? And that is my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Mr. Jim Sharp.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Sharp, 2282. I thank you for your time, and I had some notes that I just, you see the division in the room, right? I mean, it's clear. It's clear who people applaud for, it's who people pay attention to. I lay that, and I have friends on this board. I've worked with people in this room and people at these tables for years. This division in this room is at your feet, right? Plain and simple. And I'm going to lose friends tonight, and that's unfortunate, and that is not my goal. You should have seen this coming a year ago, a year and a half ago. As soon as AFG became a success, you should have known that this is going to be the way things are. Missouri has 48, 49 data centers, all of them either built from scratch or converted in the last 5 or 6 years. Did we think we were immune? Why Missouri? There's a Department of Economic Development tax abatement program for data centers, not just for any industry in particular, but for data centers. Missouri is very friendly to this industry. It's fairly isolated from the natural disaster side of things. Say what you want about New Madrid. We don't get major earthquakes up here. We don't get hurricanes. Data centers like that. We have the infrastructure. We have the workforce. We have all these things. Why Warren County? Because AFG was a success. And AFG was an experiment, not an official experiment, but there were big manufacturers who looked at AFG as, I wonder if they'll make it, right? A standalone facility built sort of in a derogatory way, but majority of manufacturers kind of out on its own. Did that county have the workforce? Did they have the infrastructure? Did they have the support? Did it do what they said it was going to do? And once those things happened to AFG, we should have seen data centers coming. I do not believe that this is a generational opportunity. I believe this is about a once every 10 or 12 years opportunity because the projected for data centers for AI, and similar support is triple digit on an annual basis. You could have done your research a year ago, 18 months ago, and you could have been prepared for all these people who had these questions about power and rates and water and aquifers and access and everything. And you could have cited your sources, because there are people in this room right now who are prepared to not believe the words you say. And again, that's on you. You could have done a better job. And I'm disappointed that you didn't. I think this will go. Don't get me wrong. We have a record of success in Warren County and for making things go. But if the next big project is handled by this board like this project, that's going to be a problem. And you will not get any backing. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Child. Our next speaker will be Ms. Penny McLean. Ms. Penny McLean, she's going to state her name right now.
Yes, my name is Penny McLean. I am born and raised here. This is my home. This is my community. I have seen progress. I've not always liked it. It's not that nice to go to my father's house anymore because there's just subdivisions and no trees. And I'm not a fan of that, but I understand the importance of the town growing. I don't have a problem with growth at all. This whole data center thing, I had no idea this was going on. I had my neighbor tell me about it, and then I started paying attention. There is so much information out there, and some people are for it, and some people are against it. We need to be educated. This is our environment and our natural resources. Things like this should not be decided by elected officials. It needs to be on the ballot. The community as a whole. The community needs to be able to be educated and make a conscious decision that this is what we want or this is what we don't want. Again, you need to listen to us. There is so much conflict and we're not getting anywhere. And if it goes through, then the people that don't like it are going to be mad and there's going to be all this, tension. We already have that. What happened to the community? Aren't we supposed to work together? I mean, we all live here, so we should be working together. So thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. Mr. McLean. Mr. Lindworth, Mr. Tom Lindworth. Then Monica, you're next.
My name's Tom Lindworth.
Thank you, Mr.
She said exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
But I think we should have a vote on this. It should be up to the residents if they want this in their town. I moved out here to get away from all the traffic and all the people. I moved out here for that purpose. And now we're going to put this gigantic data center and none of us know what's going to do. None of us. And we've been told for months that nobody has any information. Just totally lied to. So, it's unfortunate that that's where we're at, that we can't believe anybody anymore. So I'd like people to be transparent, and I think the residents should decide themselves whether they want this or not.
Thank you, Mr. Lindworth. Ms. Lindworth.
My name is Monica Lindworth, and you gave all these data, all these figures. How are we going to hold you to these promises that you're only going to use 140,000 gallons of water a year, less? And then the next frame was over, I don't understand that. Educated on all this, but one thing, some of the data you gave,
is if this goes through, do not vote for another school department tax increase, because they worked hard for us. 150% increase. And I want some reading about a contract with them that will show them to what they are trying to tell us.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth Cooper.
For those that don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Coper. I've been a teacher here in Warrenton for almost 13 years and a resident for 16. There are two things that my 1,600 current and former students can agree upon. I'm pretty critical and I hate technology. As an English teacher, I sent back red ink massacred papers, and now teaching culinary arts, I'm the next Gordon Ramsay. Turns out, as long as you want the best for kids, lovingly critical is what gives students something specific to focus on and improve. I can talk in front of kids. I hate talking in front of adults. This kind of backfires when it comes to my husband. As a college athlete and coach, he's a bit of a perfectionist, so my critical doesn't always come across as lovingly as I'd like. You see, his problem solving comes off a little extremist. If I mention he doesn't fold my pants the trifold way that I like to fit in the closet, he's going to help me next time by never doing laundry again. Avoidance is clearly the best way to fix situations that cause criticisms, right? I've learned that getting the right mindset for the middle comes in the quote, my children are probably going to put on my grave, problems have solutions. Can't reach the top shelf, we get a stool. All problems have solutions, and avoidance or extremism is not going to solve any problem. Somewhere, there's a middle ground. Each year, we've seen massive improvements to the technology and new regulations for communities that are satisfied with the results. But inflammatory misinformation regarding only the failed systems is clouding our community's understanding. Personally, I don't recycle, but I compost my kitchen waste and I refuse to use chemicals in my garden. I don't have an electric vehicle, but my husband and I try to carpool or stay in town when it's going to be a long night. I don't take short showers, but I turn off the sink when I'm brushing my teeth. I care about the environment and my bills, but if we're being honest with ourselves, we need our actions to be louder than our words. This data center isn't going to have an impact as large as if every member of this community shut off a light when leaving the room, shut off their dusk to dawn lights during migratory seasons, or stopped watering their lawns in the middle of a drought. It's amazing how much of this spoken passion could be used for the good of our town instead of tearing it down. I appreciate that the members of this community are looking to improve things through actions and not just words. Ask any one of my former students and they would all be shocked I'm here advocating for the internet and technology. In fact, I'm pretty sure the school district has me on a red letter list somewhere because of the amount of paper I use in my classroom. To be frank, I hate computers. I hate how much technology has tried to mandate education. I hate how old it makes me feel when I remember how cool I was coding MS-DOS systems in the 90s. But boy, how far we've come. I don't have to run a setup and execute for making a note. I just tell Alexa to keep a grocery list for me, and somehow across the clouds or cloud or something in the sky, it shows up on my phone at the grocery store when I need it. Technology is running us over. It doesn't matter how much we push back. The younger generations have solidified that it's only going to get more advanced. The technology in this construction of data centers has advanced. I can stand up here and tell everyone about WUE, the water usage, and PUE, the electric usage. I feel like they did a really great job about that. How Arizona did terribly with the evaporative cooling, and Texas managed the air cooling system, but with no threat to water, but huge electric costs. But these are extremes of the past. There's a middle ground in this closed loop system as proposed for Warrenton, and we have a lot to gain. I have a big fire to protect this small town, but the reality is we cannot protect what we have without more money to fix the problems that already exist. The water main problems, or the roads, our increasing need for fire, ambulance, and police. And of course, where does this money come from? individual taxpayers. But the Warrenton community is not filled with millionaires. With the lock on future tax rates, we have no way to meet the demands of our needs. We don't have millions in housing assessments and thriving businesses to tax. Our school is a Title I school. We can't afford what it's going to cost to fix the problems that already exist. We keep losing high caliber teachers that want to stay but cannot afford their loans and cost of living. When teachers, emergency personnel, and city workers have kids on free and reduced lunch, we have to wake up. This data center provides the money so we don't have to sell out and become Wentzville, unless we want more smoke shops and gas stations. We all need to be a little less critical and instead look for the middle ground solution. As long as care is taken to make the most updated, no harm, wisest version of this technology, we'd be fools to say no to the benefits of this data center. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. I was also hoping you would go over 5 minutes, so I could have done that. Our next speaker, Ms. Sue Graffel.
Try it. You gotta try it.
Mrs. Sue Graffel. Greifel?
Right?
Greif.
Pronounce the F and the Z.
I see the Z. Greifs.
Right?
Greif.
Zoo.
Zoo. Oh, I see. Greif Zoo. So our next speaker is Ms. Sue Greif Zoo.
All right, well, we know my name. We got that one down. All right, my first question is that are you going to allow the abatements so that all these beautiful figures at 76,000 per each school teacher, an addition per year, are you going to allow the abatements so that they don't have to pay those taxes? When a new subdivision is built, like this would have been 400 homes, 2 trees are planted per home to replace the trees that were destroyed. They're planting a couple 50, 75 of them. We would have a lot more trees to be replaced if that was a subdivision than a data center. I'm worried about the water, 100%. Just bought my home November 3rd, didn't know about the data center, and I'm one farm away, so I'm a little concerned. What about the 3 endangered bats that are in the area? Have we checked on them? Then on your own website, Section 405.170, purpose. These areas are intended to provide an industrial park atmosphere, light industrial, for industries which do not generate noise, dust, vibrations, and other adverse influences on adjacent land uses. That's Warrenton's own statement. This huge 1.6 thousand, whatever it is, square feet building is not light industrial. It is heavy industrial. You annex the ground for light industrial. There's your answer. There's your stop. You don't have to go any farther. That's your law.
Thank you, Ms. Greif. Next speaker is Samash Elias. Thank you, Mr. Samash.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. Again, my name is Samash Elias. I lead an organization called Missouri Partnership. We're a public-private, nonprofit economic development group. We work to attract jobs and investment in companies to the state. Today, the U.S. is in a race for AI dominance, and Missouri has an opportunity to play in this next chapter of economic development. Missouri Partnership is committed to working with data center partners who adhere to the absolute highest standards. And I'll tell you, the presentation that was done by Matt and Sarah, outstanding, for the best I've ever seen. They answered a lot of questions in that presentation. I'll strive to work with those who operate as true partners, supporting local initiatives and contributing positively to the community for decades. We recognize that any major development is going to bring questions and concerns, but by taking a balanced approach, Warrenton can secure its share of tech investment while safeguarding the community's quality of life. Missouri needs to get its fair share of this next generation of tech investment to ensure a bright future for the state, and I'm going to seize this opportunity.
We cannot afford to let this pass us by. We believe this project will provide mutual benefit and success. I'm going to say that again, mutual benefit and success while demonstrating to the rest of the city and to open for business. Thank you, commissioners, for your time this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Our next speaker, Ms. Rita Mays.
Hello, my name is Reva. I've lived in Warrenton for about 2 years and I currently live in a 55+ community. It's about, as a crow flies, it's about 2 miles from where the data center will be. And I know there's at least one 55 and over community center that's near Walmart. That's also about 2 miles from where the data center will be. And I'm very concerned about any toxins that may be released into the atmosphere by the diesel generators that are going to be used. The winds come from the west and they come strong a lot of times on windy days, right into our subdivision there. And I heard earlier that online, I think the answer was, well, to test, they would run 30 minutes. Earlier in the presentations, they said it would run an hour and on occasion 2 hours. But they didn't mention how long they could run if there's an emergency situation. Like, you know, if the power's down. I understand from what I've read and learned from research in other communities that it could be days if the power is down. So one of the questions that I have is, what do you have in place if you build this thing and the generators have to go for a lengthy period of time and there's a lot of toxins in the air? So how do you notify the people there's a problem? That's one of the things that I'm concerned about. I'm also very concerned about the water. As well as I'm very concerned about the people who live close to that data center site. I certainly wouldn't want to live close to it. 2 miles is too close for me, actually. The other things, I am concerned, I know what we hear here, okay, the water bills and all that are not going to increase. Well, I have difficulty believing that. For some people, you know, if your utilities go up 100 or 200 a month, no big deal. But if you're a senior or somebody that is low income, that could be hard to find if you have a low budget. So one of the things that I really think would be equitable is all of these people that live real close to this data center. If you had some kind of fund set up, if their property values tank because of this data center, aren't they due some compensation for that? I think they are. And I don't live close enough. I'm not worried about compensation for me, but they are my neighbors too. And I am concerned about compensation for them. And I think as the leaders of our community, you should be thinking about them. And I guess I just ask that you don't allow the appeal of money to lead you to make decisions that diminish the quality of life in Warrenton. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Our next speaker was Catherine Grayson. Is Catherine here? I'm sorry. She is here. Ms. Grayson, thank you. Speak into the microphone, though.
I have a great concern for this.
Okay, state your name again for the record.
Catherine Grayson.
Thank you.
I have a lot of concerns.
Okay.
My first one being, I moved to a rural area. We live in a residential area, 22-acre shared lake environment. There are 16 homes on our lake. I moved out there because of the wildlife, because of the clean air, the environment. This is a clash of culture. We have two different cultures. We have an industrial culture and a rural culture, and they don't meet. This site should be placed somewhere else.
I agree with the data center. It's progress. It's coming. It's great.
It's going to give us revenue, but I don't agree with the site placement. The last lady that talked about compensation, I just did a RECA claim on my mom because she had cancer and died. I don't want that to happen to me and my kids to have to do that later on. You guys have to be cognizant of the environment. It's going to affect our wildlife. It's going to affect our quality of water. Where do they take that system? Where do they dump that? All their chemicals. Where's it going? Is it going in Bear Creek and Peru Creek? That's what I understood. Where are they going to dump their waste products? It's there. Are they going to haul it off to another state and give them a problem? I just want to know this. It's an industrial, and I don't know how it can be considered light industrial when it has such a great impact on the environment. That's the one thing I just kept on going, what? It doesn't make sense. But anyway, I know you're not going to ask my questions today, but I wish, and we really need a step-by-step cognitive. I contacted Missouri Conservation. I contacted all state organizations that could actually look into these issues, the air, the water. They don't have any regulations for it at this moment for specific for the data center. That's what we need to do is work on regulations.
And we said we can't answer your questions during this issue. But once I open the regular meeting, we'll be asking those questions of the project, okay? So those questions will be answered tonight.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Grayson. Ms. Missy Moldman.
Hi. I tutor in AI. My name is Missy Bowman. I've lived in Warrenton for about 21 years. I tutor in AI. I've applied engineering, mathematics, physics, and to psychology and come up with amazing results. For anybody that's actually concerned about the data center coming in, it's like I actually have a lot of information that I can share. It's like I just don't totally understand or know how to share that because I'm not like in the public eye or anything, but I know how to find the information. I know how to verify things. It's like, I mean, it's really, really simple, and I use AI to do it. It's like sometimes if you get a response from AI, you need to make sure that it's not role playing. You need to make sure that it's actual information, so you have to verify literally everything. Everything that they're saying about the water reclamation system is new. There's like, it's not like the old data centers that they used to make. There's actually like a newer system for it now. And it's like an AI can actually show us how to do this. It needs to be verified with like proper engineers and everything, but we're coming up with like technology right now. Everything about this is amazing to me. I'm so personally excited that you guys came to talk to us because I'm thrilled. I think it's amazing. It's like if Warrenton needs to step into the future, and I think we need to do this like yesterday, because the jobs that we're going to need, the AI that's everything that's this data center can create for us job wise is absolutely necessary. And Warrenton can be at the core of it. Making it ethical is part of our jobs. Making sure that AI stays ethical is something that we all need to do. For people that are concerned about like the lighting, it's like, I don't know if Walmart or Schnucks put into, their lighting system as much work as these people probably had, because there's a thing out in the Grand Canyon called like the Dark Skies Project. And it actually is meant to reduce the amount of light that is out there. You can actually see the Milky Way out there. We can't see that here. And it's already like that here. So it's like, I don't think a data center is going to cause that much more problem. And it's like, I can understand if it's being, people being concerned about their animals, obviously. But again, it's like the Dark Skies Project is something that is real. It's something that's happening. It's out there. It's like, this is technology. It's not new. It's kind of interesting to actually look at how they
turn their light switches down to see everything. I can help with educating or bridging any gaps that we've got. People that are afraid think that the water system reclamation is like not a good idea. I think it's fantastic. It's like, I mean, this is like kind of old stuff, actually. Using water to over like computers is actually old stuff. Like back in the 90s, they knew how to do this kind of thing. So it's not like totally new. It's like it might be faster and stronger information and, or, you know, processing, but it's like it's not a new technology. It's just, you know, so I just wanted to tell people that they don't have to be afraid. It's like they have like an idea of like, there's so many different ways we could create our water reclamation system. And I can help with understanding about how they discharge it or anything. I can find this information for you. I just want everybody to take heart that is in the community. If you don't know what's going on with the data center, this is a paper from January 1st that said that this meeting was going to happen tonight. I found it, and I was at one of the other meetings like a couple of months ago, maybe. And I was out of town. I was out of town for like most of November, and I came back and found out that this was still going on. It's like, it was just fantastic. And so when I saw this, like I said, I got this paper's from January 1st, Warren County Record. I just picked it up at Schnucks or something, you know, it's like, so the information is out there. And personally, I was really thrilled. I keep my eyes on the papers to see what's going on. And I just want to help. And I really think, like I said, it's like we're coming up with new technology now and the AI can figure out everything. This book is called ABCs for Artificial Intelligence. It is a kid's book. It actually talks about like literally everything that you need to know about chatbots and data centers and everything. And I think it might be silly, but I like presenting this because it helps everybody understand where we're at right now. It's like, I have a daughter, she goes to this school, and it's like, so I'm invested, you know, it's like in her future and the kids' future. And I really believe that we needed this yesterday. And it's like, also, it's like other countries and national security are not going to care about all the electric bills. If we don't care about helping national security, it's like we're in big trouble. And it's like, and if we need to plant trees, I think all of us should plant a couple of trees in my yard because I've got property. I can put some trees in my yard to help compensate. How many residents do we have? We can do this.
Thank you.
I might add, I'll sign up for your class when you teach something on AI so I could talk to my grandchildren. Last speaker of this evening, before we open up, will be Michael Swires, Mr. Michael Swires. Thank you, Mr. Swires.
Thank you, board, for having me.
Thank you.
First, my name is Michael Swires. I'm a representative organizer for the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council. I represent 2,500 members here locally, 57,000 out of 5 states. So, man, for a project like this, we don't foresee any problems with that if there's anything to come here locally. With that too, I'd like to address the board. I understand totally what the board is. I spent 10 years on a hospital board. I do a lot of work with the Missouri Hospital Association. Technology is changing. Still more to discuss about all the different things that's happened with technology. Your hospitals have a lot of technology in there. Data records, patient records, things that people don't think about. These are things that are critical for these data centers. Not only your cell phones, everything that you do on computers, but for businesses, this is big. This is a big opportunity for this location. The revenue that this would generate for your first responders, your schools, your children. I have grandchildren that live out here in Wentzville, and I Wentzville, but Warrenton. Sorry, got some in Wentzville too. Got some all over. But this is an opportunity in a lifetime, and it's a big decision. And like I said, sitting on a board and sitting in the medical field and dealing with hospitals, when you're dealing with hospitals that could possibly go bankrupt because of the medical issues that's going on in this world. This is decisions that have to be made and taken seriously. So I appreciate you guys letting me speak tonight. It is a big decision for everybody, not only you, but the general public here to think about. I think about it with my elderly father who's passed dementia. My mother passed suddenly one night, gone. So with the hospital industry and medical records, elderly, there is just a lot out there to choke on, to think about. Thank you for letting me speak.
Mrs. Ryerson. So at this time, that was the last speaker that has been given to me, but I have somebody else. You may have 5 minutes if you want to step forward to the podium. Yep. All you need to do is come to the podium, state your name just like everyone else, and you have your 5 minutes as well, man. Thank you.
It's Angie Kreckler. Yes, and I'm trying to find my notes I jotted down here. A couple of things. I didn't sign up to talk because I thought everybody was going to just knock it out of the park and cover everything. One thing nobody's asked, and you guys have not told us, you're building a data center, but for what? What is this data center going to support? Is it going to support Amazon or Microsoft? What company are you building it for? We've all watched programs. Outside of Dallas, Texas, and Granbury, they built a data center with one purpose: to mine Bitcoin. It was nonstop. The frequencies that are coming off of that plant, everybody around it is having health problems, neurological, headaches, everything. They said it's not this loud noise that you hear, but it's like a annoying buzz that goes all day, all night. Health problems. You guys haven't told us what the purpose of this data center is for. We build data centers in the middle of universities, hospitals. Those are on a much smaller scale. And the purpose of those are for research, healthcare, medical, things like that. There's a purpose. My next issue is we're told that Ameren upgrade, the costs will not be rolled down to us as citizens. Ameren's already done all the upgrades. All that is already, I live off of Chutes and Ground Road. I ride my horse down. I had flatbed tractor trailers hauling the pylons and everything. Concrete trucks going up and down my gravel road every 2 minutes. It was either going down or coming back up because they put all those massive power lines, replaced them, running from Highway 47 through Innsbrook, which is a Sierra Club, This is all paid for. Their substation, never heard of that till September when we attended that first board. Everybody played dumb. Myself, Anna, I forgot the lady's name already. Jess was there. We all talked and everybody's like, don't know anything. So all that's already been paid for. You guys aren't helping us out with telling us you're going to pay for any upgrades after your buildings are there. The water runoff, I've talked to a few people that are in water districts that are familiar. You run through these
continuous cooling systems. At some point, that water, which I don't understand how water can break down or it accumulates byproducts, it has to be switched out. Where is that water going? With the AFG, the meatpacking plant, we already saw what happened to that. They dumped the water in, it went in the creek, ended up at Lake St. Louis, and all those people were ticked off because creek coming up, creek going down, and the byproducts in Lake St. Louis. So that is an issue. Where is the water going? And the last thing, I guess, if you guys decide you're going to push this through, we've all voiced it. We can only do what we can do as residents. My home is my biggest asset at this point. And if I don't have water or consistent electricity, I'm dead in the water. What do I do? Sell my place for pennies on the dollar and start over somewhere else? If you want to make an apology to the residents of Warrenton, Warren County, all this money you guys say is going to be generated in taxes. Why don't you, 30, I'll talk fast. Give us all a tax break. You told us as senior citizens, once we hit 62, our real estate taxes were going to be what, locked in and never raised, and now we're getting issues come through and pass stuff, we'll raise it. What if you take all that tax revenue you're going to get from them, give us a tax break on our real estate taxes, our personal property taxes, things like that. Help your residents out. Or set up the fund like everybody's saying.
Thank you. And just for the record, because I didn't ask you at the beginning, but I think you said it during your speech, you live on Schutzer Ground Road, correct?
Yes,
That's
sir.
just for the record. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Kreckler. Step to the podium, sir. State your name and your residence area.
All right. Evening, Paul Diller. Sorry, I missed the card sign up. I live on a highway in South Warrenton. All right, so I'll just jump right into it. So as I understand it, the planning and zoning's job here today is to view this with regard to its planning and zoning impacts, and we'll have another public, comment period for the overall approval. So with regard to that, I guess I'll start with the headliner, which is I am for this opportunity. I was not originally a blanket yes. I never am a blanket yes or never will be a blanket yes. I am a yes if vote. And so this is an opportunity. I don't see it as a threat. And I feel our rules and the role of you all up here and the role of us in the community is to exploit opportunity and mitigate risk. No opportunity like this is going to come without risk. I can't imagine a world in which we would have this opportunity without risk. But if we can secure this opportunity while mitigating the risk of noise, water, electric, lights, disruption to the community, I think we would be making a terrible error, honestly, that other communities, I feel, would be begging us to make to not exploit this. So I am a yes if. As I understand it, this is a conditional use. These are our conditions that we are setting. So if they're going to meet our conditions or exceed our conditions, I don't understand why we would turn our back. We set these conditions. If they rise to our conditions, then it would seem that we would move forward with this. One of the speakers we've heard, is this a once in a generation, once in a lifetime? Maybe it's once in every 10 years. Even if it were once in every 5 years, if it were $80 million, what would that be? $40 million, or not 40 million, $400 million. How long would it take for us to make up that ground? So if it is truly a once in 12 years, that's $1 billion. It is once in a generation. And, so this is an opportunity. All opportunity comes with risk. It's our job to mitigate the risk, secure the opportunity, and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Again, state your name and your location.
My name is Darcy Bowles. I've lived here for 50 some years. It's a great community. I love it. This is a major decision. And I feel that the city and the county should all have the vote, that all the people here should be able to vote and make this a decision, because how can you 10 people make that decision and feel good about it?
Mrs. Bowles, just for the record, you live on Mose Highway 47, correct? Thank you, just for the record, thank you.
Terrible speaker. My name's Phyllis Wall, and actually I live in Klein. So I am Forestdale, but I'm Warren County, so I'm affected from both sides. So my thing is, I have relatives that lived in Texas near all that, health issues, the noise. The generators, we have an emergency, your generator goes down, our residential area have generators. You're pulling our power. The same thing with where's your information that you get the studies. The other thing is, you guys, this is more of Warrington, not Forestdale, but you guys said you're using 19%. Where is in the contract or something, you still have 49%. Who's to come back and say you guys aren't going to build? Yes, you're using the utilities of 16 homes, but in the next 5 years or so, if you build, there's 400 homes. Then it is going to affect everything long-term. So if this is something that's here to stay long-term, you need to look at the fine print too.
Can you state your name one more time, ma'am?
Phyllis Wall.
Phyllis Wall?
Wall.
Wall, okay, thank you. Ms. Wall, thank you, Ms. Wall. Down here, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Oh, I'm real short compared to everybody else.
Joy.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Holthouse. My husband and I built our dream home in 2022, or not 2022, 2022. Right in the subdivision behind where this proposal is taking place. We're very open-minded. We understand the benefits that it can truly have to the community. I think what part of the representation problem is that 5 miles out of town is where this property essentially is. Obviously, it was annexed to be city. A lot of us don't feel like that is city property, right? But that's done, it's over. We can't change that. But I think that is where a lot of the distrust in this situation comes from. And so that is the consideration moving forward. This is a proposal, right? So we're proposing and they're proposing that they'll do these things. And I think a lot of them are wonderful and there are a lot of solutions to the concerns. However, because of the distrust that has already been created, nobody really believes that the proposal will uphold, right? So we say it's going to be a closed circuit system. How does that come back to us as community members when that proposal is not what happens? When that moves to a different system because they find a problem and that's not what's going to work, right? I think those are some of the bigger issues beyond this that we would love to have answers to. Is this is maybe a great proposal, but when it comes down to it, when something needs to change that could potentially impact us long term, we won't have any say in that, right? Because we need to leave that up to engineering. We need to leave that up to other people, and all those decisions haven't been made. And so I think when it comes down to it, I think it's a big consideration from where like a lot of the root of the concern is with finding solutions to some of these problems too. So.
Thank you, Ms. Holthouse. Just to go back on that, I'm not answering any questions, but you were talking about proposal and the questions and so forth. Have you ever been to a planning and zoning meeting? These people are the most question-only people I've ever met in my entire life. I would love to have had these in my classroom. So they have questions that they're going to ask
Right.
You,
Right.
as representatives.
It's so much the questions now, it's, and things change.
And they're gonna ask those as well.
Doesn't happen.
And those
You go.
those questions are gonna be asked.
That will come for a lot of solutions.
Yep, and I wrote that down, and those questions will be asked and attended to tonight. Thank you, Ms. Hillhouse. There we go. Thanks. Thanks, sis.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Sharp. A lot of the questions and complaints I've heard here tonight have been about the environmental factors. And I do believe those are important. Those are questions that should be asked. But I want to know, so this is a data center. What data are they going to be storing? How much of our local data will be stored in this data center? That's my only question for tonight.
Ms. Sharp, thank you for speaking. Can you give me where you live? You're at
2282 Pagebury Drive.
Pagebury Drive. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you.
I'm Renee Lambert. I live on W and Licks, 30125 State Highway W.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert.
Okay, I haven't heard about the hazardous material that's being stored on site. That catches fire. Does our fire department have the correct stuff to take care of that? Because from what I understand, it's totally different than a regular fire. Plus all that trees that they have, it will go up. I will see the power lines going through. I live Licks. I can hear the kids racing down Licks from my backyard. So it's very much a concern. I have deers that come to my bird feeder. The environmental things are just so terrible that would affect so many people that I just can't see that we can't have more time for this. Plus, I've also been reading that actually these data centers are almost on the way out. They got about a 5-year. Yes, as far as technology goes. So what are we going to do in 5 years when we have these big buildings still there and they've ruined our water or our land?
And that's one of the questions I have written down as well.
Okay.
And I apologize for riding my side-by-side too fast down Licks Road, so just in advance, so. No.
Okay, all right.
Beautiful out there, though. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for
We
speaking.
moved out there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We were the only ones on 10 acres and we had a lot of quiet. Now we have neighbors though.
Thank you for speaking.
But they're good neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. Come on, girl. Come on down. You're the next contestant. No, Drunk Soul. That's my mom's favorite show. And I will answer this, so that we are very fortunate on this board. We have a fire specialist on our board here that asks all those questions as well. So I promise you some of the questions that have been raised here tonight will be addressed. State your name, sweetheart.
Hi, my name is Brianna Chalbo, and I live in 30123 Prairie Estates Road.
Okay.
So if this data center is being built, it will pretty much be right in my backyard, which is very unfortunate. I am not for the data center. I know all of us, we have the same concerns, right? Of noise, water, disruption, our own personal health, our animals' health. I do live on a farm. Me and my husband, we just bought our house there about 1.5 years ago. We didn't know anything about the data center. Sadly, if we would have known about it, we would not have moved here. I do love this community. I love how it is a farmer kind of community. I thought this community would be more old school. And I think if a data center was going to be built, it should be built in New York or some other city where this just does not belong here in the country. I also agree that with this big decision, it should be on a ballot. I think our community has the right to vote for this. I don't think it should just be voted on by 10 men or women, because this is a big decision. It's going to affect our community for our entire lives to come. My other biggest concern, of course, is health. And with me living so close, we're trying to start a family. And if it does affect health, which I believe it does, I am a nurse, it would just be completely horrible. And I'm sure for you guys too, who I know a lot of you probably do reside here in Warrenton, if you could think about our community's needs and wants and desires and why we all live here in the first place. And don't think about, and I don't know if any of you would even get a cut of pay, but you know, a lot of these men and women over here, I know that this is part of their job, that they are here today to speak, and they don't live here, so they aren't worried about the effects that we are worrying about. I was also told like this information to be shared today. I was told there's going to be 5 data centers being built within a 10-mile radius. My question is this going to be built here in Warrenton? And if you do know the information, if it's not here, where? Let's see. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shambo. Again, I would like to address the situation that the role of this board, just so everybody's on the same page here, the role of this board is to take what kind of, and I was explaining this to Mr. Bernthal, this too, he asked that question on the interview ago, that our job is to do the grunt work for our board of aldermen. They do a lot of work, trust me. This is basically, it started out when I joined the board in 95 as a volunteer board. So this man up here is getting paid big bucks to be on this board. Yes, we are residences. That's a requirement. We must all be a resident of the city limits of Warrenton. Some of these guys and gals are lifers. They've been here forever. I moved here in 1989. Yes, that is that. So the decisions that we make, we are making for ourselves and our families as well. So, that's the representative democracy. The way it works is that we elect people to make decisions for us, so we don't have to show up at every meeting and make those decisions. And then therefore, we make a decision here to either approve or deny this, which is not a final decision. Just make sure you're aware of that. Then it will go to the Board of Aldermen. Can I get a date? January 20th, and that also will be held here, which I might say, Mr. Arnett, thank you for your time. I know that this is not on your contract, the time, but I appreciate you being here and allowing us to use your beautiful facility. If you're wondering why other school officials are not here, the second Thursday is reserved for school board meetings. And so I'm the school board and as Ms. Tibbetts says, and so, but we have chosen to be here tonight since of the importance of this agenda for our community. So thank you to the school for allowing us to use this tonight and on the 20th. Appreciate you. All right. Saying that, any other final speakers before we go? Yes, come on down. Sorry, I don't have a big rule for us all to spend today.
Hi, I'm Jessica Adams. I live in Warren County off of Highway T. Yes, they're looking to build or annex land out there for a data center as well. So I understand Missouri has a chance to play a role in the tech revolution, but it's not at the will of the citizens. It's being decided by the board. I understand that you're voted in to represent residents and what they want, but something of this magnitude really should be on a ballot. And as far as getting a big chunk of the funds going to the school and being on part of the school, that again may look a bit suspicious. And things have been of secret and not out in the open. So yes, I think it should be on a ballot for everybody to decide within Warrenton if they want this in their town. You don't hear stories of towns welcoming and the residents with data centers. I don't hear stories of them being happy that they're being built. They're happy that their Board of Aldermen listened to them postpone the meetings and gave the data and allowed to see how this will actually affect them. I would like you all to be an example and set a standard and put this to a vote for the residents so they decide and not you. And give them that chance. So that's pretty much all I had to say is allow us to have a voice and put it on a ballot.
Thank you, Jessica. And I will add, we are not voted in, we're appointed. The Board of Aldermen are elected officials, so therefore they are elected officials. So we do speak on behalf of our community when we are daunted with this task to make sure that we're looking at this. And these guys scrutinize these things. I promise you, these folks up here have put countless hours into scrutinizing this project since we have been made aware of it.
Then why wasn't it published at the beginning? If it's been scrutinized.
And as far as the board goes, as far as the voting goes, that's not the way the system works. That's out of our control. We can't just all of a sudden say, oh, let's put this on the ballot.
I don't think on a ballot. I'm talking about the information of the data center itself.
We'll answer that. Those questions will come up. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Joyce. Anyone else? Who gets there first? Come on, you go ahead, come on, sit down at that. Go ahead and have a seat. Thank you.
And data center. I know you, Rich. Good to see you. I will say that I have been neutral on this position and I am still holding out a decision. I want to receive all the information, but I think a lot of the residents of both the city and all of us in the county that are in the surrounding area that would be impacted. The greatest concern that I've heard leading up to tonight and from a lot of people tonight, and I just want to reiterate it, is a concern about transparency. I think there are a lot of good points that have been made tonight, but a lot of people are concerned about how they can trust in that information. And I think the more forthright that the Planning and Zoning Committee can be, that the Board of Aldermen can be, that economic development can provide, we would have a lot more trust and knowing that you're looking out for the residents and citizens. I think there are a lot of great things that can come from the tax money if that proves out. But like some of the other points that have been brought up tonight, wanting to know that you guys are going to, that we would actually receive that information and you're not going to give them a lot of tax breaks. I think the other thing is just making sure going forward that more information is shared openly. It has seemed like things were kind of, there have been some smoke and mirrors that have gone on. Even when the bus trip went up to Iowa to look at another data center, there would have been an opportunity if some residents could have been invited along. There were a lot of different representatives from government officials in the surrounding area. The radio station went, the newspaper went, but what I didn't hear was that just regular citizens were invited to bring their own questions. One of the things that I brought up at that time was when I saw a lot of the conversations going back and forth on the concerned citizens group about it was, I can't remember the gentleman who said it, but he said, you know, we went up there and we looked and we all left there going like, we can't see anything wrong. What did we miss? We can't see any negatives in this. And I said, well, sure. I used to do corporate communications and I was part of the teams that rolled out the red carpet for trips like that and for government advocacy. And so I know how that works. Their job for that trip was to roll out the red carpet for you guys and make sure that you only saw the best of everything. And what the citizens want to know is that you guys lifted up that carpet and looked under it and asked all the questions, and that you're doing that still now to hold our interest at heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horton. I would like to comment, I know I'm not answering questions here, but this board kind of is like I liked what Mr. Diller said about and you kind of reiterated that, Mrs. Horton, that you're not a yes, you're not a no, you're here for information. And I think this board enters every meeting we have once on the first Thursday of every month. When we come here, we have that same mentality that we're not a yes, we're not a no, we're here to gather the information. Mr. Burks does a fantastic job as our planning officer for the city of Warrenton. Our legal team does a great job. Our city administrator and her staff does a great job in presenting us with the information. We get the information a couple of weeks ahead of time so that we have time to research it ourselves and be prepared for our meeting, but in no way, shape, or form. Every month, when we leave the meeting, the last question we ask Mr. Burks, anything new for next month, and he lets us know what might be coming on. He lets us know that yes, there's going to be a meeting, so make sure you schedule your time because we're not required to be here, but we do have to have a quorum every month, which is 6 of us. And tonight we're blessed that all 10 has made sure that they're here tonight, and I appreciate those guys too. So, and we are regular residences. I know I went on that trip, and I'm a regular resident as well. I just happened to be able to have the blessing of serving on several boards, so I was trying to get the answers for a lot of people. So, ma'am, go ahead and state your name.
Okay, now I'm really, really nervous because I've had to stand here and wait. My name's Michelle Dreyer. I live out on Highway W. I am not happy about this at all. I'm very concerned about the environmental impact that this will have on us. I am concerned that you're presenting this to us as something really good, okay? You're not going to come here and tell us anything that's derogatory about what's going on, okay? I can't believe that all the information you're giving me is, first of all, there's no guarantee that what you're saying is going to continue to go on after this. Do we have some sort of contract that says once this is proposed, it goes through 5 years from now when there is a need to increase the scope of whatever this data center is going to do, are those things going to still hold true to us? Are there still going to be those stringent like buffers, like just around the trees around there, the noise level? What is our guarantee that those things are going to continue? So.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I don't want to cut anyone off, but we have 10 people on this board that is anxious to ask questions as well tonight for you and present your questions to the folks that are here to answer those questions. But I don't want to cut anyone off. Is there anyone that has dire need to speak tonight? Hearing none, we'll close our public hearing for this evening and open up our regular planning and zoning commission meeting. And thank you for being here once again. And the first order of business will be our minutes from our December the 4th, 2025 P&Z meeting. Ms. Rule?
I'm just here to
Take the roll.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any comments or questions about the minutes? You second it? Mr. Cornell, seconded by Mr. Frederick to approve the minutes as submitted. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Just a word. When you guys are making motions, if you would please utilize there you go. Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Mr. Cullum.
Yes.
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Durbin.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Detterman.
Yes.
Mr. Cornell.
Yes.
Ms. Jepson. Yes. Mr. Frederick.
Yes.
Ms. Tibbetts.
Yes.
Rest of us, we took a 5-10 minute break. Is that okay? Can we take a 10-minute break so everybody can stretch their legs and use the restroom or get a drink of water and come back and we can, thank you. All right, everybody will make your way back to your seats. We'll call the order back to order in a second. Everybody make your way back. Thank you for your cooperation there.
Melody, when will the pizza be here?
So if you're staying for the, please go ahead and make your way back to the chairs. If not, you may be dismissed. Thank you for coming. At this time, we'll go ahead and move up the planning and zone for joint regulation. First order of business, after the minutes were approved, it's time for public comments. So I'll give one last chance. If there's any last person that would like to speak, this is your last opportunity to speak. Then the board will take over and start asking questions on your behalf. Last chance for public comments. Anyone want to make a last? All right. Where at? If you spoken, you don't have another 5 minutes, I don't think. That's different. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you got it. Never mind. Since it's public comments versus public hearing, I'm going to allow you. So, is the mic still working, Sutton?
So again, I'm Jess Sutton, and I shared my concerns and things that I have seen regarding the data center in the last one. So this experience has caused me a lot of community members that I had no idea were there. Being in the county, kind of keep to ourselves, which is why we don't like an industrial park. Anyway, I want to share what I learned just speaking to my community surrounding the data center. These are folks that live right along it. And speaking to members that surround the data center, such as Mr. Bergeron, which I know you all remember, he comes to every meeting, he is going to have a severe water impact, as well as multiple other impacts from the data center. His plan was for his children in the future to make that property their home on that land that's been in their family for 40 years. His sons would like to someday live where their grandparents settled back in 1985. What is this going to do to his crop field moving forward? Because we all know you contaminate the soil, you will ultimately contaminate the crops. Not only on his land, but the land that surrounds it as well. So what happens to the well that provides fresh, safe water? What then? Who's going to pay for that? I think I've already asked that question. Another resident shared with me, and these are her words. She keeps praying that this just won't happen. She is a newly widowed with 2 adult children with special needs. One that requires constant suctioning. They can't live in an area with water and electricity issues. How would their medical needs be met if there are water or electricity issues? She said, and this is a quote, "I just can't believe that our local officials are doing this to us." Another property owner whose property borders this on 2 sides. You probably heard from her tonight. The property has been in their family since 1972. That was from memory, so I hope that's right. Their kids grew up there and they live on the property. They drink the well water. Their grandsons play outside. They explore all the things you expect to explore when you live in a rural county, and that'll all be a thing of the past for them. I talked with a couple who just moved to the area. Probably heard from her tonight too. They closed on November 3rd. The listing realtor told them nothing, disclosed nothing. Later, they find out about the data center coming in near them. They'd already sold their old home and had nowhere else to go. I believe, if I'm looking at the map correctly, that there is one farm in between them and the data center. They love their home, and they've already put $75,000 into remodeling the upstairs and plan on finishing the rest of the basement. They also plan on enjoying their 2 decks and putting in a pool in the future and fishing in their pond. $75 is a lot of money to me. I don't know if it is to you guys.
My point is, these are real people whose lives are being forever changed. And I just have one last thing. If these data centers are so good for the community, why are residents fighting them everywhere? And in a lot of places, they're successful. Now, I still have time. Now, that doesn't seem good for the community to me. If these are so good, then why has this all been done in secrecy without proper notice to adjoining landowners for zoning changes? And those are not complimentary, just for the record. They are required by their own city code, contrary to what we were told. Why was it done lying to the public when they directly asked what was happening? And yes, all of that proof has been presented. It's not disinformation or gossip or hearsay. And why was there a need to send an email out begging, begging is putting a word on it. I'll just say an email sent out to companies and random people to come here and try to convince us it's okay, to try and balance out their narrative. Clearly, I must be made different than those on the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Aldermen, because I could never support doing this to any resident, let alone try and convince them it's for their own good. That's not looking out for the community and representing them as you were elected or appointed to do. If anybody would like to see the documents I'm referencing, you can do a sunshine request or come by me. I'll show them to you. They exist.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. Anyone else? Last chance.
Again, I have a question. I know you guys said the next meeting is January 20th. There's a lot of us that live in Klein, which is Forest Hill, but we pay Warren County taxes. With you guys having that next meeting here, it limits a lot of the people who need to be in both places at once. I mean, you guys are like, it's not, I need to be there at Forest Hill because my house is there, but then I can't be here too. So I'm like, I just see it as it's not fair. The meetings should help each other. We're communities, we're cities close by each other. If you guys can move it. I mean, we had so many people, we had to go to Wright City or to Cedar Lakes. So it doesn't give me an opportunity to be here and be there at the same time to express my concern.
Okay, thank you for your concern. Anyone else? If none, we're going to move on with our regular meeting. And the first order of business tonight will be the Warrenton Data Center Conditional Use Permit, CUP-103. Mr. Burks, you don't have any additional information. Board, I am going to open it up to you, and you can call in to the party that you would like to speak to. Let's go ahead.
I would like to start. I actually want to refer over to legal. I wanted to ask the question.
Mr. Weber, thank you for.
Thank you. Can we legally turn this over to the residents for a vote?
As a fourth class city, we cannot.
Can you explain why?
So Warrenton is a fourth class city and the Missouri state statutes do not allow public votes on zoning matters for a fourth class city.
Thank you. Additionally, can we, or do you know the ordinance that references the rezoning or annexation process?
And I don't recall the exact number, but I'm generally familiar with the process.
Okay. Does it require that we have all citizens be notified?
All citizens?
Sorry, I believe it is 300 feet within the property bounds. I think that's what I read last night or this morning. But is it required? I don't remember that wording.
Yeah, I think the language is good faith effort or something to that effect. Now that's what the state statute requires.
Okay, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe it says in the ordinance that if citizens aren't notified, that it does not make that annexation or rezoning null and void, correct?
Correct.
Still stands?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for verifying.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Weber, Ms. Tibbetts, you have anything else right now?
I have lots of questions, but we can do it.
Okay. Mr. Cornell, you have the floor.
So I think probably I would start with Crusoe. There, you've been here, you've heard some of the concerns. The process of this approval would lock you all into a current site plan. Also, any future development or expansion would have to come before us. Is there any thought behind additional buildings or infrastructure being built on this property, the adjoining property that currently stands as a buffer?
Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
So the question, no, there's no thought for additional development.
Is that because it hasn't been considered or because the terrain and the land doesn't lend itself to it?
There are some geographic and maybe topographic considerations, but we're just not looking to build it there. It would be, if it were a condition or a restricted, that would be fine. We're not looking to build more.
And then the next two questions come regarding the substation and the switching station, switchyard and substation. Those would not be owned by Crusoe?
The substation and then owns the switchyard. It's utility property.
Okay. And we talked about the lighting. And I know there's going to be a lot more questions and concerns about the lighting. I've seen the proposal and the dark sky compliant lighting. Would that be applied also to the switch station and the substation?
I can't speak for the utility on how they will light it, but we can apply it to our property.
To the substation. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want me to stay up here?
Yes, you can stay up here.
One more. I've got one more from can you explain or clarify? I think we're all pretty aware of Crusoe's position in this project. What does that look like once an end user is either identified or announced? Does Crusoe remain on? Are they just leasing the building? I don't understand what that looks like.
We're the developer and owner of the property.
You're the developer. So once an end user is selected, will the property be turned over to that end user?
In a lease is our intention. Our intention is to lease the property out to the user.
Okay, thank you.
Responsibility to fill all the conditional uses that are put here tonight. Since you are the leasee, you would be responsible for those conditional uses, correct?
I think it's because we're the owner. You have to come out with them, and I assume they probably run with the land.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The one questions I was going to ask them real quick. I know I don't talk too often, but there was a lot of talk tonight about toxins released and so forth like that. Can you address that a little bit for the?
Yeah, I think there was, I was trying to take notes during this. I think there was concern about groundwater contamination. We're not using any chemicals in this site. I think I tried to address the only thing we have on the site is fuel,
right,
for the generators, and I think we tried to address the containment for the fuel.
And as far as the wind that comes through there, and like today there was a wind that came through pretty strong, and there's nothing going to be blowing that's not there. We have to get
permits, obviously, to operate the generator. That's an EPA regulation. EPA delegates it back to the state. The state has to give us a permit for the generators.
Right. All right, Mr. Costello. Oh, go ahead.
So to the point you started, you said there's no chemicals. So what's in the cooling system?
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a small bit of glycol that will be used in the cooling system.
Okay.
But we're not bringing, we're not making there's no chemical reaction or anything that we're making. I would call it like cleaning solvents, which you would have, and those would qualify as toxic chemicals that are in every building. I mean, there are things, I can't say there are no toxic substances as they'd be regulated because there are toxics for cleaning the floors of any building. It'll be in the cooling system. They're very small amounts. They're all regulated. Again, I think there are a number of laws we're going to have to comply with for how we run and operate the facility.
Regulates the chemicals that you use in the cooling system.
No, but who's going to regulate state if you want to come up?
Well, we want to talk to you all tonight. Thank you, sir, for your time tonight.
My name is Nelson Beaver. I'm with Southland Industries. I'm our Vice President of Engineering. We are a design build contractor who supports Crusoe on jobs across the United States. And we're doing the mechanical and plumbing systems on for them.
Okay, so you mentioned that the chemicals that are used is regulated. I'm asking who regulates the chemicals that you use in the cooling system?
Yeah, those standards are established by ASHRAE, the American Society of Heating Refrigeration Engineers. And so they're the ones that are establishing what those, what the content of those loops are, what the purification standards needs to be for those chemicals and those fluids that are being used for cooling. So they're the ones that are setting those standards.
So if I can interject here, I did look at the propylene glycol that was sent over in your answer. So thank you for that. Propylene glycol was actually relatively non-toxic to humans. It's used in food production. What do I put on my face? Makeup. I was like, what is this stuff called? And then it's also used as cooling. It's used in many things. And that's because it is non-toxic and it is water soluble. It actually breaks down. So that was one of the things I found. I was actually really impressed with the fact that you guys were using that one, because there was another one. It was ethylene glycol. So I don't want to confuse that. When we say the word glycol, it is not the ethylene glycol. It is the propylene glycol, which is very different. The biggest concern I would find would be if it got into waterways. However, there was a discussion, or I guess an answer to a question that I had, which was how would we mitigate risks if there's leaks, and what would we do with any water that needs to be, I guess, released from the system. And so there was discussion about whether or not it could go into wastewater treatment facility, which it can, depending on how much is in there. And if our system can handle it, which you would have to speak with our city staff to see if our system can handle it, or it goes off-site. So when you guys send those off-site, is that your team that's managing that, or is that Crusoe? Is that the end user who is managing that?
That would be the end user that would be responsible for managing that liquid.
And I am correct in everything I just said, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm not the engineer, so I just want to.
No, yes, what you stated is correct.
Perfect.
Let's go sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. No,
Sleep in Holiday Inn?
you did not know the joke. Sorry.
Sleep in my bed.
I got it.
That's what you need. All right, Mr. Costello, you have the floor, sir.
Can I add one other thing? We have heavy leak detection. We are bringing the cooling to the chips. Okay, so the chips don't want to mix with water outside of the loop.
Yeah,
So-
talk to us a little bit about the leak detection. I know you mentioned the flow sensors, and you mentioned being able to turn it off in sections with the valves.
Yeah.
Or is that guy that just walked back again too?
Thank you, Mr. Field.
Mr. Fields, not to belabor your.
Did you have an answer or something? Sorry. I didn't hear her question.
Yeah, just talking about the flow sensors, because I know that we mentioned that the cooling system was all above ground. There was flow sensors, there was regulators. So we would know that if a leak occurred and it could be mitigated quickly. So let's talk about that in depth so we can kind of have some peace of mind here.
And there's also valving in place in the piping systems, so any leak that occurs can be reacted to in a very rapid fashion. Couple of goals, right? We want to mitigate the quantity that gets leaked out of the system, as well as keep the system online as long as possible. So there's a lot of redundancy and a lot of valving in place, so that as soon as a leak is detected, it's addressed immediately.
Because that's not just good for the environment, that's also good for bottom dollar, right? Keeping the chips up and running.
That's correct. It's
good for all of us.
Leaks are the enemy.
Okay,
Mr. Costello?
All right, Mr. Field, back to you. And I wanted to follow on a little bit with what Mr. Cornell was speaking on. So with respect to the facility, we understand that the intention would be to lease it to an end user. Hopefully not one that changes later on down the road. I'm going to assume, the question's been asked in a couple different forms of who that is. And to this point, I've got to believe it's known, at least by you, Crusoe, who your tenant would be. But for one reason or another, that's not been provided. My question first is, once that end user's in place, will Crusoe remain the owner of the property?
Two questions there. We do not have an end user. Just want to be clear. It's very hard to lease space that isn't permitted.
Okay.
So we do not have a user. Our intent is to lease the building out long-term to an end user, which is our business model. We lease it out.
Okay, and so how many those types of developments around the country do you currently, under Crusoe, manage?
We have, think about what we're under NDAs on a lot of things, but we have project in Abilene, which is 8 buildings. We have another project in Texas, which will be the equivalent of 6 more of these buildings. Currently, we just entered into a project this week in Wyoming that is about 6 to 7 times the size of this facility.
I'm not asking necessarily what's in the works. I'm asking currently in operation. How many? I don't think this was violated in NDA to say how many facilities you have.
I'm trying to. I'm gonna have to go back to you with an answer for exactly how many we have, and I'm sure it's on our website. Candidly, I don't know off the top of my head.
Are we talking order of magnitude of tens,
hundreds? No, tens. We don't have hundreds. And the scale of these things, what we're talking about here, very few people have built buildings of this scale, right? We have a number of smaller facilities. The scale of these facilities that we're seeing built around the country right now are unique. It is definitely a change in how these buildings are being used at scale.
So the ones that are currently in operation, who would some of the occupants be, and what types of data facilities are they? What are they processing there?
One of our lead customers is Oracle. We're not privy to what they handle. In fact, they would never tell us what they're handling inside these facilities. And they're under NDAs to whoever their customers are or how they're using the data.
Okay. So the project itself, kind of moving on to the construction, estimated 2,000 to 2,400 total jobs during the course of construction. My assumption, and maybe I'm wrong, this is the largest project that's ever been seen in Warren County if it were to occur. So, but my assumption is not that we would expect necessarily to have 2,000 to 2,400 construction workers there on the same day. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will be.
At peak, we would have 2,400 people probably on this, close 2,000 people on the site at peak.
Really?
Yes.
So then if you're going across all disciplines from site work all the way through to final completion, total number of jobs might be, total number of individuals employed might be 4 or 5 times that.
No, I mean, that's the peak. That's really the peak number of people working on this.
Right. But 2,000 people there on any given day when it's max peak construction, I'm assuming along the way on the front end and on the back end, not all 2,000 people can be there at a time.
That's my mistake. We have 2,000 to 2,400 total people employed. So our peak is probably lower than that.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So on any given day, it might be 250 people on site. It won't be necessarily 2,000 people on site.
It'll be more than 250.
Okay.
At peak.
Okay. So, just to get an understanding, because there are in our community and in the surrounding communities, as you're well aware, like many others, a lot of people who make their living in trades.
Yeah.
And so,
I wanted to have a better understanding of whether that was truly that many people all working at one time, or if it was more likely the lower number.
I do try to compress the construction schedule. A lot of time these things are built over very long periods of time, and we're trying to compress the schedule as much as we possibly can.
Okay, all right. I'll have more questions, but that's all for now.
So I think you answered your question about the data center for what, because of course you're not privy to that information as well. So we can assume that Spot or Atlas is not coming, right? The AI guys. If you don't know who Spot and Atlas are, that's the robots that are made by Boston Dynamic. If you had a chance to see that on 60 Minutes on Sunday night, and then they had Hyundai had their presentation at their convention on Monday at Las Vegas. A graduate and a basketball player here at Warrenton is on that project, and he texted me and said, "This is an awesome opportunity for our community." So, and he would answer any questions about AI if anybody had any questions. So he would love to meet with you back there, girl. So this is a big question, and I've been asked this more than anyone. What happens if this building, because I think it's concerned, comes in and it's a flop, and 3 years down the road, whoever the user is, decide they're pulling out. It's not working, they're pulling out. What happens at that juncture to this building?
The commitment that the tenant will have with us will run a very long number of years, and you don't give outs to the tenants. These tenants are committing huge resources to these buildings. They don't commit to these things lightly. So they have to have what they would refer to as a use case for it. So they're going to have a user group and a use case to put in the building. They invest, the chips into the buildings that are very expensive. And so they're just not making these decisions on a lark for a 3-year commitment. They're going to end up making a 10 or more year commitment to the building.
Looking at that 10-year decade, because like I said, we can't predict what's going to happen in 10 years. That's crazy, especially in the industry of technology. But in 10 years, and I think Mr. Etcher has addressed this as well, very well, that if in 10 years, technology's taken a turn, like someone said, and there's this big building out here, I'm sure they would be able to repurpose this building for some other use that might be more productive in the future. So it's not like this is going to be an eyesore and it's going to be sitting there vacant. So I think, we're into this for the long haul as a community. And I know that that's what we're looking for through this relationship that we have with your company as well. So thank you for your time on that. I'll open it up to anyone else. Ms. Jespin?
Excuse me. I just wanted to ask, so you've got other places that you use these at. What is the average commitment? Like, is it 10 years, 15 years, 30 years? What's the average?
In bigger facilities, it's 15 or more years.
Okay. And then you guys had mentioned wanting to be a part of the community here, and that Crusoe likes to be a part. Are you guys a part for that whole time, or just in the time that you're building here, and then once it moves to your end user, then?
No, for the whole time. Okay. And one thing we didn't mention is even though we're building, we have a lot of people who are going to need to eat on site. We try to partner with local restaurants. We try to do a lot of outreach to involve the community from the absolute beginning. And our contractor and our company has developed a pretty good program to really bring local food, local services to the site.
I had a question. So when you bring your leasee on board, and they purchase the property, do all of the conditional uses transfer to the new person?
We typically aren't selling the property, but
okay.
The way I understand it, I would assume the conditions are with the property, not with the company.
Okay, great. I missed that part. The other thing is somebody brought up the big lines that they've put out, the power lines. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that is an investment that was made by Evolve already, correct?
No, not all. There's additional transmission that will come, and there's also generation. So
the lines that have currently gone up are being funded by Evolve? Or are those being funded by Caruso?
Yes.
Being funded by the current
Yeah.
user, right? Like my bill's not
Yes.
going up because of those.
Correct.
And then the substation, the switch yard, all the lines that run to your property, that's all on Crusoe.
Correct.
Okay,
And we'll sign a contract with Ameren that will obligate us to pay for all of that.
thank you.
Is someone from Ameren here tonight? Can they step up to the podium?
Mr. Ameren, come on down.
Sorry to put you on the spot there. Might as well, since they brought up the question, we might as well address that, because I know I had a meeting this morning. I'm also on the Quiver River. So I had a meeting with the president of Quiver River, and he said the same thing to me this morning that I'm hoping that you're gonna say here now. No bills are gonna be passed on to our consumers here due to this, correct? I mean, they're gonna pay for their own way, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So just to record, James O'Mara, I'm the manager of economic development with Ameren, Missouri. So regarding the costs associated with this project, it's really two parts that we ensure that these customers pay for the direct costs associated with that. One is through a construction agreement that outlines the direct interconnection costs. So as the Caruso team outlined, the specific transmission lines, the switchyard equipment, any design and engineering that's required from Ameren, the developer themselves pay for that upfront prior to us beginning any work. And then secondly, regarding the long-term contract that they referenced, the service that they would receive from us before we can actually provide service. As they stated, we have a new law that requires us to ensure that they pay their share of costs associated with their project. And that is through a new rate structure that was recently passed in November. That requires the customer to enter into a contract with us. And that contract has specific financial obligations that they have to, one, pay upfront and then pay over the time during that contract. And if they were to terminate that contract, there's additional penalties to ensure that we're made whole from the service that they would have received from that. So those contracts are required before we could even provide service.
And because I mean, the way electricity basically works, to my knowledge, from what I've always taught, little monopolies, and thank goodness they are. I can't go out and build my own substation. And the gentleman told me this morning that Quiver River has asked for rates to increase through this new law thing. But those rates that are being added at this time are due to things that have been built in the past. It's not things that are going to be built here. You know what I'm saying? Like substations and these $1 billion substations that Quiver River's putting 2 or 3 up as we speak. And that cost has to go on to all of us a little bit to cover that, because that's a privately owned company, unlike Ameren. But I think the big concern is that I've heard on social media, well, my bill's going to go. Well, I don't think it is due to this project.
There are no rate increases to connect these large customers that have currently been planned. To your point, what we have seen is upgrades to the system.
Right.
We have an aging system that we've done upgrades. Those rate increases have gone to make our system more resilient, more reliable, and upgrade aging infrastructure.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything from Mr.? Go ahead.
We've got several. Let's start with kind of where you just were. When we talk about that capacity and that bill and passing that bill on to the general customer, I think there's a lot of skepticism that customer is going to get hurt is if we build all of this infrastructure and something goes and that usage isn't there. I understand that there are some guarantees, there's some bonding, and SB4 is put in place. I think it's SB4 addresses that. There's also some skepticism because there was a difference of opinion whether or not SB4 went far enough to protect the consumer. Let's talk about, in the event that there is overcapacity, right? Crusoe goes, they aren't taking up the power. You're not able to sell the power that you were intended, but now you have the infrastructure for. and I'm cheating because I saw this from Mr. Dixon. Can you explain the long-range plan that if that were to happen, how you would address that overcapacity as it pertains to future planned development?
For sure. So first off, I want to touch back on the contract itself. So you touched upon one thing where if this user is not using the allotted amount that they said they were going to do, how will that impact us? Well, that contract itself requires them to pay a minimum amount, whether they use it or not. And so that minimum amount is set because we believe that that's what we need to be made whole to ensure that we do not pass those costs onto other customers. So that contract itself is ensuring a minimum amount is paid. And then in the event that they were below that, we are part of MISO, which is the Mid-Independent System, Mid-Continent Independent System Operator. It's our grid operator. It spans from Canada all the way down to Alabama. It allows our grid to be interconnected. What MISO allows us to do is any excess capacity, we can actually sell that back into the MISO market to actually create a revenue that allows us to pass those revenues onto customers and spread those costs across a broader customer base. So between those two mechanisms, it really allows us to ensure that that we are made whole and that the customer is paying the share that they're supposed to be paying, and we don't pass those costs unjustly onto existing customers.
One thing that you brought up, the minimum that they're required.
Yes.
You're saying that that minimum is enough that it would make you whole for your investment.
Correct. So in our testimony, in our tariff that we filed, we provided testimony showing that this minimum obligation ensures that as long as they pay that we are, that this customer is paying their share of costs.
Let's assume that everything doesn't go as planned, and somehow, despite all of these safeguards, costs somehow trickle down and do go to the small user, right? The homeowner. If this project is not built in Warren County, but it's built in Callaway County, and that same situation happens, it's not just Callaway County residents that are going to be paying. Just like if that falls short here, it won't be just Warren County residents making up that difference. It's everybody on Ameren, Missouri's.
Yeah, it's every customer within our service territory would be subject to that situation if it were to happen, just like the very opposite, where we believe that what these customers can actually do is, because of the revenues that they're obligated to pay, will actually provide an economic benefit to our customers and spread those costs across obviously a larger user. And so while yes, maybe in the negative, it gets spread across the entire service territory, the transverse happens when these customers come online and bring that economic benefit. It gets spread across the entire service territory.
Okay. One last, I promise, guys. And Crusoe is part of this also. So even though there's a lot of talk about revenue here, and we're going to have lots of questions, I want to be clear that, in my opinion at least, the revenues, whether it's a net positive to the city or not, that isn't part of our decision-making process. But I think that it's still good information for us to have. Some of the local taxing entities have a concern regarding the sales tax. Data centers are entitled to, I believe it's a 15-year exclusion on sales tax. But then the other thing is, when it comes to electrical usage, and I'm sorry, I'm not very well versed, but somebody brought this to my attention. Is it possible for these buildings, we've got 3 large buildings, for those buildings to be metered individually? My understanding is that makes more clarity when it comes to taxing. And we're not looking at monitoring necessarily usage, but making sure that there's an ability to collect the taxes as they're owed.
So currently the way that the tariff is written is that we have to serve large load customers at a 115 kV, essentially 115,000 volt level or higher. And so from our perspective, the meter point would unfortunately be a single meter point. I will point out though, from my understanding of how the exemptions work, that the sales and use tax on the gross receipts associated with energy sales is that it is not an applicable exemption for those taxes. So anything associated with that meter point would not fall under the exemption.
Okay. And for Crusoe, since we're kind of on that, is there an intention for the developer to apply for these sales tax abatements? And if so, would Crusoe, I don't need an answer. If so, I would hope that Crusoe would consider exempting the local sales tax from whatever abatement they request regarding sales tax.
We haven't applied for any abatement yet, so, but I understand the request and certainly consider that.
Thank you.
Mr. Costello wants to follow up on that question, please.
Okay. So by John's, that I've been a little bit concerned with for this project and you know, large projects in general, you know, Crusoe, like all corporations and all businesses, want the best terms and conditions, and understand that and appreciate that, and don't fault Crusoe for whatever they feel like the best interest of their profitability is. The city submitted a series of questions with respect to the tax revenue because we've been shown tonight, and you know, we've heard previously that we're looking at potentially $78 to $80 million of annualized tax revenue for the various taxing entities that would be part of the community here. School district being the largest single beneficiary, but most of the taxing entities, I think, would benefit in one way, shape, or form. My concern is that those things have a tendency of evaporating. And, you know, if we're being told as a commission and if the Board of Aldermen is being told that $78 to $80 million of tax revenue is to be expected, I would at least like to believe that there's not going to be an effort to claw that back in some way, shape, or form. So I want to read these questions into the record. Not asking you to answer and at the beginning here, I'm going to read these questions. So the first question, will Missouri Chapter 100 exemptions for sales tax be sought for the project? If so, will the developer commit to only seeking exemption for the state portion of sales tax and promise to pay the local sales tax for the benefit of the city of Warrenton and Warren County? Similarly, will the developer seek exemption from personal property tax through Chapter 100? And will it commit to leaving the local tax revenue in place? Does the developer have plans to transfer ownership of the development to the city or county and arrange to lease it back so that the property improvements will be exempt from real property tax? This has been done in other nearby communities on major projects, depriving citizens of the revenues promised when the projects were first proposed. Will the developer commit to the project remaining a private ownership property so that real property tax will be assessed in full? Will the developer agree not to seek tax abatements in any form? And if not, what tax abatements does the developer intend to seek? Those 4 questions were submitted and we received written responses. And I want to point out the written responses are identical. So I'll read it one time because it's the same for all 4. And the response is, Crusoe has not begun conversations with the city regarding potential sales tax incentives. For the purposes of the planning and zoning meeting on January 8th, Crusoe is focused on answering questions as it relates to the site plan. Crusoe looks forward to continuing the conversation with the city about our economic impact in the community. So, Sarah, I hope you can understand that doesn't give some of us very much confidence that the $78 to $80 million that's being flashed around is really going to materialize. And so for me as a commissioner, I can't support this project if there's going to be any effort to pull that money back.
Understood. I think I think what we showed on the screen was the property tax to the property tax. And if the request, and I need to confer with somebody here, but if the property tax, it's the question of the property taxes. Let me just go confer with somebody. I'll be right back.
Right. And you know, the city of Warrenton is not funded by property tax at all. City of Warrenton, the sales tax really is really about the only form of revenue the city gets. And so the sales tax issue, as far as city services are concerned, unless I'm completely misinformed, you know, the city's real stake in additional funding revenue from this project would have to come in terms of sales tax. And I have a follow on for some of the additional, excuse me. I hate being farsighted, but it is what it is. So there, I have some concern about sales tax, which should be sales tax and personal property tax, both of which should be assessed on items purchased either as replacements and ongoing repairs at the facility and or personal property being assessed each year at the county level. So an additional question was asked, will the developer commit to a requirement that any tenant or occupant of the project must procure all equipment, servers, vehicles, personal property, etc., locally, that is subject to local sales and use tax, as opposed to purchasing it from another location with lower sales tax rates? Similarly, will the developer commit to restricting any tenant or occupant from leasing equipment, servers, vehicles, personal property, etc., from another entity that is not subject to sales or personal property tax in Warrenton and Warren County? And the answer we were provided on that question is Crusoe is committed to sourcing as much local labor and materials for the project as possible. We cannot speak for the tenant, and I will respectfully submit, as the building owner, you absolutely can make it a requirement in the contract and in the lease that all materials to be purchased that are subject to sales tax will be done so in a manner in which that sales tax is collected in the city of Warrenton rather than being purchased elsewhere and shipped in. Similarly, you can also restrict and put a restriction in place that would prohibit them from the tenant from leasing anything that is a personal property taxable item from an outside source, thereby making them exempt from the personal property tax. And if we're going to see a development of the nature that this is in size and scope, you know, I certainly feel for the people that live in the area surrounding that. And I certainly understand and would feel very similarly that life being turned upside down is not, it's not happy news if this all comes to town for them. But I think if we leave the back door open and these sales tax and property tax revenues aren't actually going to exist the way that they've been portrayed, we're all going to look foolish. And I feel like it's our job as commissioners to ask these questions. And I feel like the Board of Aldermen similarly wants to make sure that all of the promises are kept.
I just piggyback. You were going to confer about the property tax. My concern would equally be, and I think Mr. Costello voiced it, the personal property tax also. That's quite honestly, I believe that's going to be a bigger investment, the personal property, than the actual real property in this. I think the community is very much voicing their concerns. And part of it is what it's going to do to their lifestyle. The other part is you're giving it away because they are cynical and they think the city is going to give all of these taxes away. I recognize the city has the ability to negotiate that and say no to any abatements that you seek. But I think that you need to know where the community is on the taxes. And to be clear, I don't believe that is or should be part of our consideration on deciding that isn't one of the 10 standards that we have to decide. I think it's a great question. I think it needs to be out there. I think we need answers. But as far as the question in front of us, I don't think that should be part of our deliberations.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Field at this time?
Can I ask, I'm sorry, the question was yelled from the back, why, and shame. Would legal, please weigh in on my comment that I don't believe that should be part of the deliberations on this.
Thank you, Ms. Weber.
Certainly. In section 405.340 of the city code, we have standards for issuing a conditional use permit. And Mr. Cornell, you're correct that revenue generation is not one of those standards, but certainly any tax abatement that was proposed would be considered and approved or denied by the Board of Aldermen, just like the conditional use permit would be. By the Board of Aldermen, that's correct.
So we can make that a part of our conditions tonight, correct? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No, okay. Just clarify.
We can't table this consideration until the developer comes back to us with answers on those questions.
I defer the legal on that.
Yeah, because we just brought it up, section 405.340. It states that conditional use projects should contribute and promote the general welfare, public health, safety, and convenience of the public. Could you explain specifically how this proposed use will achieve those objectives?
Sorry, can you read that back?
I sure can. So you're supposed to contribute and promote the general welfare, public health, safety, and convenience of the public. Can you explain specifically how a data center would meet that standard?
General welfare, convenience, safety,
and public health.
I'm going to take them out of order, and
that's fine.
And I'm probably, not the most qualified person to answer this.
I would open this to anybody that's here. That's part of this project. So I feel like we're picking on you because you're the guy at the podium.
I have a podium, but I would tell you I'm not the legal counsel to make the determination.
I just have a clarification question on that question, because they're required to apply for this permitting as per the new ordinance due to the generators, correct?
It's due to the definition of data center.
It's due to their use, not due to the generators, but due to their
Fuel
use.
storage that required them to apply for a CUP.
No, we defined data center as a conditional use last month. That's why they're required for the CUP. So I would rather, if you're not the person to answer the question, if there's somebody here that can answer that, I think more than anything, what we want is accurate answers. And so rather than you guess at it,
I don't want to guess.
Yeah, rather than you guess at it, if there's somebody else here that can answer that, we'd love to hear it.
Yes, so my name's Peyton McGee. I work with Kinley Horn and Associates. I'm civil engineer, but also helped with a lot of the due diligence and site assessment for the project. So the public health, safety, and welfare is a statement taken from, and from my understanding, is the Board of Engineers, civil engineers, to promote public health, safety, and welfare for, and that is an obligation of an engineering. So what we design to that standard in order to not be a detriment to society. It is not to necessarily promote and enhance those, but it is to design in a way that doesn't deteriorate from the public health, safety, and welfare of the public.
I was like, I'm comfortable with what you just said, except for surely you guys read our conditional use standard, and it says that you should contribute and promote.
So we contribute and promote in ways like we design the roads and things to be compliant for fire safety. We design the traffic patterns to be compliant. We design the water system to be up to code for the Texas or for the environmental review boards. We design the entire system to be in conformance with the state statutes and laws so that our site promotes the standards and laws of the land in order to meet the requirements.
Thank you for that answer. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to move forward on. So I know actually you can stay right there because you're the one who did it was the survey for the animal. Hang on.
Correct. We did
species assessment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you want to talk about that a little bit?
So firm did a variety of environmental studies for the project. We do assessments on all land purchases. It's a very common practice in real estate to do those types. We did what's called a threatened and endangered species analysis. We look at past surveys. We look at public record data. We do field visits to the site and looked at this particular site. In relation to threatened and endangered species, there's public records for through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services that pull certain species. There were, I believe, 3 bat species that pop up as a potential threatened and endangered species that has a habitat in this general area. And so we looked at the habitat and did a conditional assessment of the property to determine the likelihood of a habitat. And then we've designed our site in a way to reduce the impacts of those habitats. And then also our construction schedule is built around minimizing and following the standard of care to minimize any impacts to the habitat. Specifically, the tree clearing would be done during the winter months because that's when the bats are in hibernation.
Thank you. Sorry, this is our
Does anybody else have any questions for this gentleman?
I actually have another question, yes. So is Kimberly Horn, are you guys the ones that sought the land disturbance stormwater permit, the general?
You will.
You will, okay. So I just wanted to verify, people were concerned that that was not going to be a part of the process.
Yeah, the land disturbance permit is a requirement of the
Okay.
natural resource.
Thank you. I just wanted that on record. Okay, so then let me get all of my notes together. I don't think I have any other questions for you at this moment.
Can I follow up with this? We talked about the protected species assessment. When was that conducted? When was the on-site visit?
I believe in the months of October, November.
So recently?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so at this time,
They're in hibernation.
so at this time, they probably went to Gus's farm down on Benny's property. So, John, did you have something else?
Actually, are you the, yes, because it's your symbol on here. So I just have a clarification question. When we look at those 2 big billboards back there, and you also had the pretty pictures up on the
Yes.
things here. Okay, so currently what I'm looking at here, you have it designed where there are trees between the substation and the switchyard. But when we look at this, there aren't trees. One of those photos shows trees, one of those photos does not show trees. Are we going to have trees between the 2 or not?
So what's on the screen, although it's a early version of our grading plan, it shows a gap in the disturbance of land between those 2, and those trees would be preserved.
A gap?
In the gap between the switchyard and the substation, there is
okay.
some trees in that area that would be preserved, yes.
Okay, perfect. And then I know we're putting back some tree species, and I just wanted to put this on your record or whoever record it was that makes the landscape plan. Our community currently is suffering from oak wilt. I know that white oak was one of the species.
White oak specifically?
White oak was being specified. we really don't want to put oaks back in or red oak. So we'd prefer other species to be on that list. Okay.
Noted. And we will remove those from future planting plans.
And that could be a part of a condition if you want to add it, which is.
I would love
If there's no other question
to.
this time.
About plants.
A question, but just because I heard comments from the audience, I wanted to read into record just like
go ahead,
Mr.
Mr. Clegg.
Costello, we had questions asked and answered earlier. One of the questions was, do we know if there was a survey done to ensure that there are no endangered species on this parcel?
Yes.
The answer was Crusade commissioned a third-party consultant, Kimley Horn, who's speaking here, to prepare a protected species assessment. This report identified the potential for up to 3 endangered bat species to occupy the project area seasonally, but noted that these bats were not observed during their field visits. The report recommends mature tree removal within the time of year restrictions to avoid potential impacts to the bat species. Mature tree clearing will be completed in adherence with these recommendations. Is it safe for us to assume that that protected species assessment was more looking for more than just bats?
Correct.
All protected species.
All protected species.
And the only thing from that assessment was potentially the 3 bat species, and
Yes.
none of them were there at the time of this because they were hibernating.
Correct. The term is potential suitable habitat is present.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to go back to talking about some of the screening material. So I felt like looking at the plans, the screening shrubs and the shade trees are pretty light on the plan. Is there any way to make those a bit denser, use evergreens, just something really, I want them a little bit more hardy so people really aren't seeing through them. Now, I will say, I did go out there. I probably look crazy. I was out there drawing a line. I didn't go on anybody's property. Don't worry, I wasn't trespassing. I took, my tape measure out there and I did the 100 feet, and I felt pretty confident that you can't see through the 100 feet. But I still would like additional screening where possible, and to make sure that when we take out trees, if we take out trees, that we're kind of doing a site assessment, and where we feel that areas are too sparse, that we're planting dense trees back. So that way the people who currently live in a more rural area, who maybe just happen to live in a more patchy part of the forest, have some more denser trees in that area. Is that something that's possible to do as a site assessment after
So the
trees are removed?
The trees that we're preserving around the perimeter of the site, I would agree, are dense. And that is why we are trying to preserve those perimeter trees as a buffer.
Yeah.
The proposed trees in the site plan submittal that
Yes.
that we proposed the minimum amount to meet the code.
Can we get more?
That's something that we can
Really
consider as a group.
like more trees.
It's something that we can consider as a team. I'm sure that we could get more.
And then
You mentioned species what we would probably do in practicality is collaborate with city staff to come up with the species that are preferred and a planting plan that is agreeable with the city staff.
Justin will love that.
Great.
Yeah, no, he'll love that. We really want to try to focus on native landscaping, things that are hardy, that reduce water usage. That's good for us, good for you. It's good for the environment as a whole. I brought up the idea of using the retention ponds possibly as rain gardens, which I think could be a really cool and fun thing to do, honestly, between the school and the data center, whoever that end user is. It's kind of a way to go out there and teach kids about environmental sciences. So I think that not only is it good for water and runoff, but it's a really good teaching point. So something to think about and kind of chew on.
Can we just touch back on the trees real quick? Instead of adding some back in, can we just take less out?
So we preserved trees around the perimeter and spent most of our time, honestly, over the last few months developing a site plan to minimize the impacts as much as possible. And since we've submitted the application, we've continued to make revisions to the site plan and the grading plan to minimize impacts. That is a goal of ours.
Okay, thank you.
Can someone talk to me a little bit about the battery storage systems? I think that was the one I was the most confused about. Where are we drawing the energy that's stored in the batteries from? Is that just coming from the greater grid? And then what are the batteries used for? Is that,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay.
Battery system does draw power from the grid and stores power from the grid. It also is designed to provide grid stability.
So it's giving back to the community if,
No, it's not discharging to the grid, but what it's trying to do is provide a cushion between the data center and the grid.
okay. So if there's a power outage, do you draw from that first?
Yes.
And then you draw from the generators? Perfect. I believe there was a question, and maybe one of you guys are a little bit more like top of mind on it. The generator runtime, now that's just in a complete emergency, right? There's no power. It's just during that runtime
That's correct.
and off.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I don't need to go anymore. I can keep talking, but I won't. I want to talk now about the lights. So one note that you have in here over and over is provide 25% fewer lumens. Than what? 25% fewer than what? Oh, we're back. Okay. Hi.
So the lighting, the 25% fewer lumens is based on the codes of the city to what is allowed. And so it's 25% less than what's allowed.
Perfect. And then we talked about motion censored lighting. Is it Crusoe or is it the end user that determines if those motion censored lights can turn completely off after a certain period of time? Or is that the intention is that they turn off?
So they're off and or dimmed significantly at night for the dark sky reasons, but they're there for security. So if something trips them, that's the reason why they would come on at all.
Right. Yes. So I would prefer if they could just go off. Is that something we can put in the conditional use? Is that they are not off permanently, but motion censored? They come on for 30 seconds or a minute and then they turn back off completely. Is that possible?
I don't know. We would have to, I'm not the lighting engineer specifically. I just know that
We have a lighting engineer here.
we do not,
Dang.
but we can consider as a team Crusoe prides itself on being sensitive to the environment and we will design this in a way that will dim the lights as much as we can. We want that.
Perfect. And here you have a note that says uplighting shall be minimized. Is that just jargon? Are we not using any uplighting, like specific uplighting? You're just saying that
So
if it happens,
this is not
it happens to go up.
uplighting is usually an architectural element to highlight pieces of the building that there's no intent to have highlighted pieces of the facade here.
Perfect. Love that.
Mr. Cornell, you got a question? I can see you. Are you still got one?
I'm loaded. I'm sorry. I've been sleeping with this
She
thing.
paused. Go ahead.
Okay. My next question. So when we're talking about the building, so I noticed we didn't see an elevation of this building and I was really kind of bummed. I was hoping to see this thing. Is there a reason we haven't seen it?
Frankly, because it's not required with a conditional use permit.
But we know what it looks like.
Yes, we had a rendering in the slide presentation.
I totally missed it. Are we able to put it back on the screen? Sorry, John.
I'm not sure we had it in the presentation. It's in there.
What? The new state name system.
I'm Heather. I'm part of the Crusoe team. It was shared as an attachment to the answers that Brandy sent.
It was just a plain elevation. Well, I was looking for like a 3D image, something that would show us maybe a little bit more detail on the architectural materials that are being used. So I know it said metal panels. Are we talking about like flat metal architectural panels? Are we talking about corrugated metal? Like more modern stuff?
100% flat metal panels.
Thank you so much. I was going to throw a temper tantrum if you said anything different. Okay. And then when do we expect to have the admin building designed?
What was the question?
The the admin building, we haven't seen the design of it.
We'll come to getting you a design as soon as possible.
Thanks. I'm just being nosy.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I am so sorry. I wanted to touch base also on the species, Senate Bill 105. Just keep that top of mind, okay? There was a bill passed that talks about invasive species. They're not currently invasive. Starting in 2029, they will be marked as invasive. I want to make sure none of those are used. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll stop now. I still have a couple more. I'll let somebody else go. I'm so sorry.
Mr. Costello.
I wanted to ask, I want to get kind of an idea of what the rest of the commission's opinion is. I feel like it's important for us to know what this tax revenue question ultimately is. And while I understand that tax abatements are granted through the various taxing authorities and not by this commission, I don't have any hesitation to ask the question and to expect that we should at least have some answer before we move forward. And, I feel like getting an answer on the Chapter 100 exemptions, potential for those, and whether Crusoe will commit to not requesting exemption on the local taxes is appropriate for us to know. I certainly feel like it's appropriate for the developer to come back to us with an answer on whether or not they would require the end user, whoever leases the property, to, as terms of their lease, not to seek exemption from sales tax and local personal property tax. So my thinking is that we need answers to those questions, and I think that tabling this until we have answers to these questions is appropriate. This is the single biggest project this county's ever seen. And I think it's irresponsible to leave the back door open and we'll work it all out later. I don't think that's the right way to move forward.
No,
So-
I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Costello. And we have individuals from the community here, and we're showing them slides, and they're thinking about financial improvements for the community over the next decade. And we don't have finalization for that. I agree, tabling until that can be obtained is appropriate.
So you and I, Mr. Costello, you and I are lockstep in what we want to see happen here. I have a problem taking any action with consideration to these financial aspects, right? I agree, we shouldn't see abatements. That's not our decision. So why would we table something to gather information that doesn't go towards the decision that we are tasked with making? We're tasked with making the decision on does it meet these 10 standards? And the financial part of it isn't part of it. I have faith that if this goes forward or if it gets rejected, right? If we take a vote either up or down, I have faith that the Board of Aldermen will appropriately negotiate or refuse to negotiate, but it is their decision. And I know from years of serving with you, Mr. Costello, you believe in process just as much as I do. So we shouldn't vary from the process to try and gather information that will not further our decision.
I agree with you, John.
I would agree with you, but not for the very aggressive non-answer 4 separate times in the same exact answer for those questions.
And the answer was, I want to know what tonight's discussion is about. Tonight's discussion is about the zoning. It's not about the. That's what they get to have.
But so it is a vague answer, and I agree. I wish we would have gotten a better answer. I hope that's devoted. But he gave a vague answer to a question that doesn't go towards the process that we are here to resolve.
The question of Mr. Cornell is this project a good project for this community at this location as presented. And the economic consideration is part of that consideration.
I think we have to do the same thing as the other citizens and trust that the people that are elected to look over our city are going to do the right thing when it comes to the abatements.
So I think brings back on. So I mean, that's something that we could, as far as our conditions, we could ask that they answer some of those questions before they come in front of the board on the 20th. And leave that task to the board to make those final decisions that they're elected to do. So I would also like to move forward with this and let them make that decision for us. So does anybody have any particular questions about, because first thing we need to do at this juncture is come up with a list of conditions. Since we're on number 3, the conditional use permit, we have to come up with a list of conditions that we would like for them to answer before they come in front of the Board of Aldermen. So I'll let you fire away. More trees.
More trees. More plants.
I do have another question, and this is just clarification because, Mr. Federer, sorry, in the conditional use permit request, the lighting system, it says all exterior fixtures shall be 4,000 Kelvin in color temperature. But in the response to the questions that were sent out before, the question that was asked was what color temperature will be used for exterior lights to ensure compliance with dark sky recommendations. The answer was that specifications will generally target a correlated color temperature of 3,000 or lower. Those are different numbers. And so I would like to know, my question initially was going to be, have we considered using 3,000 because it lends more to the dark sky, but it sounds like you are. So I'm just asking for clarification as to the color temperature.
I believe that's the 25% reduction that I was referring to. So it's 3,000 to 4,000.
Okay.
If we made a condition that the lighting has to be 3,000 or lower, that would be an agreeable condition.
With the exception of need for safety.
Correct.
Correct. As long as the life safety standards can be met from the fire department, I believe that is achievable.
Speaking of the fire department, somebody that hasn't spoken tonight, I'd like to give an opportunity. Mr. Dieman, do you have any comments? Because I know there were several questions asked tonight about fire hazards, this and that. Would you like to make a comment at this time, sir?
Well, like I said, we've seen the simple elevation of the both structures on the data center hall. I'm assuming that this 805,000 square foot is going to be compartmentalized. Okay. And either going to be designed an NFPA 13 or NFPA 75 suppression system. Okay. So we're not going to, so the only fire load that we're going to have in a structure like this is going to be the combustibles from the rack equipment and the wiring. We're not going to have a 1.2 million square foot Walmart fire like they did in Plainfield 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So, like I say, it's a suppression system with, the detection system that will be going in, it's going to be required. It's going to minimize hazards on the fire department's half.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for your expertise. Appreciate that. Go ahead.
Sure. I'd like to get it back. Should that come up in the presentation? It talked about the generator testing, 14 hours per year, I think, 1 hour per month, and 2 hours for the safety test to meet a certain standard. Is that not in conflict, or I don't think that meets the guidelines that we placed on timing of the generators running?
They have to comply with our standards. So as they were going through the presentation, I didn't cross-check against ours, but yeah, they would have to comply with the standards we just adopted.
So, Mr. Buck, do you happen to know what the standard is for that timing that we set? I thought we talked about 30 minutes for testing.
It was 30 minutes.
Yeah, but the board made some.
Okay, we're shaking head no.
The board made some changes to that. We have to meet
And that's what my concerns was. They talk about 1 hour for just general testing, but they talk about a 2 hour yearly test. And it seems like that is a required for some sort of certification that you wouldn't want them to meet our 30-minute, but be out of compliance on the safety
Exactly.
restriction.
Go ahead, Mr. Field.
If you can check, I think your standard is minimum 30 minutes.
I think it's a maximum 30 minutes.
No,
No?
no, that was moved from the final version.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Weber. Any other conditions that we would like to put in place on this at this time before moving forward? Go ahead, sir.
I was going to answer the extra 2 hour test. I don't remember if it is state or federal, but it is an additional requirement for either the state or federal level.
Right.
That's why that 2 hour test is there.
I have one final question. This is actually about water. So we talked today, 60,000 per building for cooling. Okay, and now we know that it's going to be 1 million gallons per year for the overall facility. Talk to me about where the rest of the gallons are being used.
It's most domestic water use, sanitary. If you were to compare this to other light industrial uses, as we were saying, it's considerably lighter. It's the administrative building.
Yes, we did get a chart and we were able to compare it. It wouldn't even be in our top 10, but I wanted to understand where the other use was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to ask this question just for our own personal business. On my owner of my golf course that I work at, right across the interstate from there, he's worried about his legs. Is there any worry?
No, I don't know what.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That way I can look him in the eye and say, no.
I just don't know what from.
Right. You don't know what the problems would be if there would be any, because the water issue is going to be what you. Right, exactly. And that's my point. Thank you for your time, sir, and Sarah too. Anyone else have a question, or do you want to put some conditions on this CUP tonight? You bet.
Two, maybe three more. I'm coming back to lighting because it's obviously an issue. For the parking, it says there's going to be 25-foot pole mounted downlights, approximately 27 at each building. We currently don't have zoning restrictions for industrial for light standards. What we do have, in the absence of that, I think it's reasonable to look at existing city code, which the closest thing would be our RC zone, and it would be 18-foot standards. Has there been any discussion about a lower standard for parking? Because obviously that would produce less, it would have a less likelihood of light spilling out. So I'm just curious if there is a chance that there would be a smaller standard for parking. And then to follow that up, the same thing would be for, there's 170 30-foot roadway pole lights. And given that this is a gated facility, the setbacks to the property, the proposed uniformity ratios, I'm just trying to understand what a 30-foot standard would be necessary for a private use road. Could they be modified to 20 to 25 feet instead?
The spacing and stuff is for life safety. So there are codes like the International Building Code and other codes that we have to comply with that aren't just the city ordinances. So that is what those standards, that all those numbers and calculations that are in those responses are based on those codes.
So if you had a lower standard, you would need more lights to have the coverage?
Probably, yes.
So that it could be done. So this is a cost savings measure. Am I correct in that assumption?
I'm not sure, actually. It may be because the spacing has to be at a certain space to be able to see at that distance.
I'm just getting.
Yeah.
But we have parking lots that have 18-foot standards. They would meet the same safety requirements that you would be needing to meet.
Correct. So I think what we could consider here, and this may be a legal question, but if there were conditional uses to reduce the lighting, that as long as we could defer back to our lighting team between now and the Board of Aldermen to make sure we could comply with those, then we would
I
be
think as long
considering
as we
something
can
like
make
that.
sure that they're on a motion sensor that turns them off. I don't know why we would need to reduce the number of them that are necessary.
I'm just asking about moving them lower. The higher the light is, the more that it spills. So if we move that standard down, there's less light that would pollute it. I know these are downward facing, but 170 30-foot roadway pulls is a lot of light.
So I just wrote lighting to be mitigated by shorter poles if possible.
Yes.
And they can look into that before the next meeting.
Perfect. Yes.
And the last thing I have is, Mr. Burke talked about it at the beginning was the email that I saw was that, MoDOT went out and measured the site distance for the required entrances, the entrance to the east, 825 feet, from the existing does not meet the standards, and then entrance to the west, 1,510 feet does not meet the minimum requirements either. We were told that it does. So has there been an adjustment made to meet those standards?
Correct. There was a third driveway proposed at one point when that letter was issued on the west side of the site that said it didn't meet. We have a new letter from the DOT that we could provide that is approval of these two driveways shown on the screen.
Fair enough. Just wanted to clarify. Thank
And
you.
that'll be made present to the Board of Aldermen then, correct? Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
So if we were to move forward, we would take up the site plan first, followed by the conditional use, or it all goes together?
The conditional use first, and you can vote on them separately. So you'd vote on the conditional use.
And then the site plan. Yeah. So right now we're just narrowing down the conditions that you all feel are necessary for them to address before they go to the Board of Aldermen.
And the 3,000 K restriction on is it lumens?
I said lighting mitigating.
The lighting mitigation.
Yeah.
And the planting density in consultation or collaboration with city staff.
Yeah, that's something that we've always looked at here in our city that we're always looking to, I mean, I was pretty impressed with what they even got to start with, that's something that can be improved on, but at least they have presented a good boundary there. And you know as well as I do that when this first started a month or so ago that, and then we went and visited one of these units that they were building their 15th building and we were concerned, wow. And we've been told tonight that they're looking at the 2 buildings and that's it. So very little property is going to be used out there, I think. So I was excited about that as well. So what else did you have, John?
That's it.
So I got more trees density, hopefully. Question about the abatements situation.
Are we able to do that as a conditional use topic? Related to the abatements and ensuring that taxation details are available prior to the Alderman meeting?
What if we made it not a condition, but a recommendation of the board that there be no abatements, and throw that back in the alderman's lap?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we got whichever way we were doing it correctly.
It sounds to me like they probably.
Hang on, let's just go ahead and go on. For the legal, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Weber.
Okay. So you can't make a condition that they submit that information before the Board of Aldermen meeting, right? The conditions that you're proposing are conditions on the conditional use itself. Now, you can certainly, as a board, request or suggest, but you can't make conditions on the board actually considering the CUP.
Okay, thank you.
So the 2 that I have is more trees density, lighting will be mitigated in way possible. And I want to add one thing to my comment a while ago about my golf course owner. That was also directed towards my friends that live on Deerfield Lane as well, because at one of our last meetings, I can't remember the gentleman that brought that up, that he was concerned about the runoff into the lake over there. There's some beautiful lakes over there that we want to make sure we protect too. So thank you for your comments about that as well. So So does anybody have any other conditions besides more trees density and lighting being mitigated?
I don't know, would this be a
Yeah.
time to talk about, I know there was a lot of concern about some sort of fund for the wells or something to kind of look into if that were to become a problem, that is that something that we would do here, or that's something the alderman would talk about?
I seriously, I don't think that's anything that we would address here.
I,
Go ahead.
yeah, I don't know. You know what? That was right off the bat, one of the things that I thought about when this water concern first came up of there's going to be funds here. Let's set up some kind of escrow to address that.
I thought there was quite honestly in place. Did I read somewhere in place that they're required to make sure that if they do pull out at a certain time, if there's regulations that are in place that they would pay a certain thing type of deal, or is that something else I'm thinking of? Did I look up? You gotta remember, the last time that we operated or approved a data center here was a long time ago, so.
But should know, this was particularly towards if citizens had failed wells. And that was my initial thought, was there's got to be a way to mitigate against that. Quite honestly, the fact that they're not going to have to drill an additional well, I think resolves that. I know that there's still skepticism of whether or not that is the case, but when we were talking about a 1 million gallon one-time fill and the annual use of 20 homes, I don't think that concern is there. I think that you also run into the issue in setting something like that up. How do you determine whether or not that was caused by, I think if they were drilling, maybe you could find some causation and say, hey, this guy's well failed and they drilled a new well. The fact that you didn't drill, but just drawing from the same, and but I don't think there's a need for
I think the answer to the question is that is something that we can pass on to the Board of Aldermen and they could look at in their discussions at that point. And I see them writing notes now, so that's good. So right now I have 2 conditions, more trees and density and lighting were mitigated by whatever means possible to do that.
I have one additional question.
To protect the lighting, go ahead.
Have you guys decided how you're filling your cooling system? Is that being contracted water? Are you using the city water? Has that been decided?
I think it's Montgomery County Water.
I was just still curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought that was in the questions that were answered to us earlier, that Montgomery County Water, and then it's going to be filled out so often, whatever, then.
I'm sorry, Rich.
No, no, that's a good question.
Job.
Huh?
I said I have a job.
Montgomery County Water, yeah. I got Montgomery County Water at one of my places, so go ahead.
We're using the same water source to fill as we are on an ongoing basis.
So how are you cleaning the water to make sure that there's no corrosion inside the?
So there's treatment. I'm going to be the technical expert, but there are but there is treatment applied into the cooling loop.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody on the commission want to entertain a motion at this time for the conditional use permit?
to make a motion to approve conditional use permit 103 as submitted with the additional conditions which have been tabulated and Mr. Barton can read the record, as well as recommendations for to consider abatements, not that they have to, that they're required, but to consider not making abatements on the taxes.
I'll second it.
I'm seconding it. Mr. Dolan, thank you. I thought you were sleeping down, buddy. You didn't say anything. How are you doing, Coop? You okay down there? Good, buddy. So that was a motion by Mr. Canal and seconded by Mr. Dolan to approve the C3 as submitted with the conditions of more trees and density to try to make more arrangements there and do the best they can with that, and lighting being mitigated by whatever needs necessary to appease to that need. And then also just a recommendation that they come front board with maybe more clarification about tax abatements and what happens in the future if there's anything problems with, would there be a fund or something to that extent? So those are questions that they can bring up at that time. Anyone else have any questions or comments? at this time?
Good.
If not, oh, well, hang on, go ahead, Ms. Gibson. Yeah, that's fine. Here.
There was just one more question about on the rooftops of the buildings. Is there any thoughts of doing like solar panels or anything up there just to help with power possibilities there?
We're not planning on solar on the roof, and despite what looks like a big, it actually is not a very big area relative to solar generation. We would love to think that we could get solar on the roofs of the buildings. And it's just that the math just doesn't work in terms of what you're generating.
Okay.
I understand you guys have solar around here, and the solar arrays are huge to generate power.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Cornell, so Mr. Gogan to approve it. Any other questions at this time? Thank you for everybody's questions tonight. And at this time, we'll take a roll call vote.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Durbin, Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Daneman,
Yes.
Mr. Cornell, Ms. Jepson,
No.
Mr. Frederick, Ms. Tibbetts,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
No.
Mr. Collins,
Yes. Motion passes 8-2, and that would come in front of the board meeting on January the 20th. Not here, but not done, we still have one more issue. Last issue will be the Wenton Data Center site plan -185. Mr. Burks, do you have any further information? Any questions from the board? We've answered almost all of them since we did it under conditional use permit. Mr. Cornell, would you like to do that?
Make a motion to approve site plan SP 85 as submitted.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Cornell, second by Mr. Cook to approve the Wenton Data Center site plan SP-185. Any other further questions? Roll call vote.
Mr. Durbin,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Daneman, Mr. Cornell,
Yes.
Ms. Jepson,
No, sorry.
No.
Mr. Frederick,
Yes.
Ms. Tibbetts, yes, Mr. Costello, Mr. Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton.
Yes. Just trying to turn left, Mr. The motion passes 8-2. That'll also come from the Board of Aldermen on January the 20th. This is the point, I'll close the meeting and turn it over to Mr. Burks. We will have another meeting for the community. We will have another meeting next first date on the month of February, back at the next meeting. That's at what's that? No. And John Limbaugh. So I'd like to thank everybody, all the representatives from the companies that came forward. Thank you for your time. All the community members and the guests that spoke today. Thank you, John. Thank you. You didn't say it all night, and hallelujah. So once again, thank you and have a great night.
Here.
Yeah, Ms. Tillman seconded. All in favor, say aye. Thanks, Commissioner, for the good job. Bye-bye.